The wreath on my bedroom door said, "Welcome home" in little wooden letters. For one stupid second, I thought Eric had put it there for me. Then I heard his mother snoring on the other side. I stood in our downstairs hallway with a paper bag of cheeseburgers pressed against my ribs and my overnight case hanging from one hand. The key was still in the front door. Rain tapped the brass porch light behind me, and somewhere in the kitchen a faucet dripped with the patient rhythm of a metronome. Diane's purse sat on the hall table. Her reading glasses rested beside it, folded neatly on top of my VA discharge envelope. I opened the bedroom door. She was asleep in my bed under a pink quilt I had never seen before. The blackout curtains were gone. So was the steel rail beside the mattress. 3 framed photographs of Diane's family hung where my rehabilitation calendar had been, and a porcelain lamp with a pleated shade occupied the table that was supposed to hold my medication organizer. I had spent 4 months learning how to come home. Eric had used that time to give my room away. Diane stirred and pulled the quilt higher. Eric? No. Her eyes opened. She stared at me. I watched recognition arrive in pieces. My face, my cane, the army duffel on the floor, the fact that she was lying in my bed. "Oh," she said, "Mara." That was it. Not surprise, exactly. More like disappointment that a package had arrived before she had cleared space for it. I set the takeout bag on the dresser, or tried to. The dresser was gone, replaced by a narrow antique table crowded with lotion bottles and ceramic birds. One of the birds tipped when the bag brushed it. Diane sat up fast. Careful. I caught it before it hit the floor. My left hip lit up from the sudden twist. I put the bird back slowly enough that my hand wouldn't shake, then straightened. "What are you doing here?" she asked. "I live here. I mean today." I finished early. Finished what? I almost laughed. It came out as air through my nose. Rehab. Yes, obviously. I meant, Eric said you had another few weeks, 11 days. She looked toward the window as if a calendar might still be there to settle the disagreement. Pale afternoon light came through thin lace curtains. My room had always been dim because bright light could turn a headache into a drill bit. Now even the walls looked louder. Diane had painted over the gray-green Eric and I picked together. The room was cream with tiny pink flowers stamped along the molding. "You should have called," she said. "I wanted to surprise him." "Well." She tucked hair behind one ear. "You certainly did that." I looked at the bare patch of wall where the rail had been. 4 filled screw holes made a tidy rectangle. "Where's my stuff?" Diane pulled the quilt tighter across her chest, though she was wearing a blue tracksuit zipped to her throat. Eric handled all that. "All what? Your things." "Where?" "I'm not sure. You moved into the room, but you don't know where the things from the room went?" Her mouth flattened. "I didn't personally carry boxes, Mara, of course not." Diane once called Eric from a grocery store because the bagger had put canned soup on top of her bread. She had waited beside the cart until he drove over and corrected it. I bent for my duffel. The movement had to be done in stages now. Plant the cane, brace, hinge without rotating, breathe through the pull along the hip. At the VA, the physical therapist called it mindful movement. In the Army, we would have called it taking forever to pick up a bag. Diane watched me struggle and made no move to help. "Eric set up the office for you," she said. I paused with one hand on the strap. "The upstairs office? It has a daybed. It has stairs. You've been practicing stairs, haven't you?" I looked at her. She gave me a small, encouraging smile, the kind used on a nervous dog. That's what rehabilitation is for. A car door slammed outside. My pulse jumped so sharply that the hallway seemed to tilt. I focused on the ordinary facts. Rain, brass light, cheeseburgers getting cold. My right boot was wet. My left boot wasn't. Eric came in through the kitchen carrying 2 canvas grocery bags. "Mom, they were out of the decaf U." He saw me. One bag slipped against his jacket. A jar knocked into a can with a dull clunk. "Mara." I waited for his face to do something familiar. It almost did. His mouth opened, and for half a second I saw the man who used to meet me at airports with coffee and a sign that said, "My wife can beat up your wife." Then his eyes moved past me to the open bedroom door, and fear erased everything else. "You're home," he said. "Apparently." He put the groceries on the floor. "Why didn't you call?" "Behind me," Diane said. "That's what I asked." Eric stepped forward and hugged me. He did it carefully, his arms hovering more than holding, as if I were something hot he needed to move off a burner. I smelled rain on his jacket and the cedar soap he had used for years. I wanted to lean into him. That was the humiliating part. My body knew him before my pride could stop it. "You're early," he said into my hair. 11 days. "That's great. That's God, Mara. That's really great." He pulled away and touched my upper arms. His smile had arrived, but it was working too hard. I nodded toward the bedroom. "Your mother's in my bed." His hands dropped. Diane spoke from behind me. "I can get dressed if this is going to become a family conference. No one asked you to get undressed," I said. Eric winced. "Okay. Can we all just take a breath?" "I'm breathing." "You know what I mean." "Yes. I usually do." He picked up the grocery bags again, not because they needed moving, but because he wanted something between his hands. Mom's building got sold. The new owner isn't renewing the leases. She needed somewhere to stay, so you gave her my room. We weren't using it. I looked at him. He corrected himself. "You weren't using it. I was at the hospital. The residential program isn't a hospital." "Thank you, Eric." That distinction really clears up why there are birds where my pills go. Diane appeared in the doorway wearing slippers and carrying the porcelain bird I had nearly broken. They're wrens. "Mom, please." She doesn't have to mock everything I own. I didn't know what you owned until I found it in my bedroom. "Our bedroom," Eric said. I turned toward him. He rubbed his forehead. "Our house." I meant our house. The hallway went quiet except for the faucet. I had learned at Fort Hood that silence could make people confess things they hadn't planned to say. Most people rushed to fill it. Eric used to joke that I could question a concrete wall and get its mother's maiden name. That afternoon, he just stared at the grocery bags. "How long?" I asked. Diane answered. "Until I find something suitable." "And how long have you been here?" 3 weeks. "You moved her in 3 weeks ago?" "We talked about this," Eric said. "No, you told me her building was for sale. You were having a rough week." I remembered that week. Medication change. 2 migraines. One night when I woke under the sink in the communal kitchen because a metal tray had crashed to the floor. Eric had called on Sunday and spent 20 minutes talking about a leak in the garage freezer. When I asked how he was doing, he said, same old, same old. You decided not to tell me because I had a migraine? I decided not to pile more stress on you. What stress? Knowing who lives in my house?" Diane shifted her weight. "Eric has been managing a great deal." I asked Eric. "You don't need to use that tone. That's just my voice. It never used to be." Eric closed his eyes. There it was, one of Diane's little gifts. She could make an insult sound like concern and leave it on the table for someone else to unwrap. I picked up my duffel. "Show me the office." "Mara," Eric said, "the office." He led me to the stairs. There were 12 steps. I knew because I counted them whenever I practiced at home before the residential program. The staircase bent at the 7th, where the handrail ended for no sensible reason. Eric had promised to extend it. A strip of blue painter's tape still marked the spot. He went up ahead of me, then remembered himself, and came back down. "I can carry that." "I've got it." "You're supposed to let people help." "I'm supposed to choose when I need help." That's not what I meant, I know. I handed him the duffel anyway. It was easier than arguing while looking up a staircase. He walked 1 step below me as I climbed, close enough to catch me, close enough to make me feel watched. At the bend, pain ran from my hip into my lower back. I stopped, gripped the rail, and waited for it to pass. "You okay?" he asked. Diane called from downstairs. "Is she all right?" "I'm standing right here." I said. The office door barely cleared the daybed when Eric opened it. His desk had been pushed against the closet. 2 monitors, a printer, and a tower of unopened mail covered every flat surface. The daybed had a fitted sheet but no blanket. My green bath towel was folded at the foot like somebody had prepared a very cheap motel. "Bathroom?" I asked. "End of the hall." 22 feet away past the top of the stairs. Eric set down the duffel. "It's not ideal. My balance board won't fit in here. You can do exercises in the living room. Your mother watches television in the living room from 6 in the morning until she falls asleep." "She doesn't." "She did when your father was alive. I doubt widowhood cured cable." His mouth twitched despite himself. For 1 second, we almost smiled. That was the dangerous thing about a marriage. Even while it was cutting you, it remembered where you were ticklish. Then I saw my old gray pillow on the daybed. It was the only thing from my room. Where is everything else? Eric leaned against the desk. "Some things are in the garage." "Some?" "Most. My clothes, in garment bags, my rehab equipment." "I think it's all together. You think? I had to move quickly. Why?" "Mom was sleeping on the couch." "For how many nights?" He hesitated. 1. I looked around the office. The daybed mattress had a valley in the middle deep enough to hold rainwater. "You dismantled an accessible room overnight because your mother spent 1 night on a couch. She has back problems." I waited. He heard it after he said it. Color rose along his neck. "I didn't mean that the way it sounded." "How did you mean it? Can you please stop cross-examining me? I'm asking where my clothes are. You're doing that thing." "What thing?" The command voice. My jaw tightened. "I am not one of your soldiers, Mara." I hadn't said he was. I hadn't raised my voice, but he had already stepped backward, bracing for a version of me that made his version of himself easier to defend. Downstairs, Diane turned on the television. Applause burst from the living room, loud and canned. Eric glanced toward the hall. "Let's get you settled. We can sort the garage tomorrow." "No, we can sort it now. You just got home." "Exactly." The garage smelled like wet cardboard, gasoline, and spoiled ice cream. Eric had unplugged the leaking freezer but left a gray towel beneath it. Water had spread past the towel and reached a row of boxes along the wall. My boxes. My clothes were not in garment bags. They were stuffed into black contractor bags, 6 of them, knotted at the top. One had split, and the sleeve of my blue dress uniform jacket protruded onto the concrete. I crouched before Eric could stop me. "Mara, your hip." I lifted the sleeve. Damp grit streaked the cuff. Behind the bags, picture frames had been stacked face down under a bag of potting soil. My balance board leaned beside a rake. Resistance bands hung from the lawnmower handle like discarded rubber vines. Then I saw the cedar box. It sat beneath the corner of a sagging plastic shelf, supporting it where one leg had cracked. Dark water marked the bottom inch of the wood. I didn't hear Eric come closer. "What's in that?" he asked. I put both hands on the box. He had seen it on my dresser for years. He had dusted around it, moved it when we painted, teased me about keeping the tiny brass key taped underneath because no thief would ever think to look there. He didn't know what was in it. 2 letters, a unit patch, a watch with a broken face. The ordinary things dead people leave in your hands because everyone assumes there will be time to ask for them back. "Mara?" I stood. The pain came hard, whitening the edges of the room. Eric reached for me. I stepped away. "I'm going to a hotel." His expression changed from concern to irritation so quickly he probably didn't feel the distance between them. "Over a box?" "No, then stay and talk to me." "I've been talking. You came home without warning and started issuing orders." I looked down at the cedar box in my hands. "I asked where you put me," I said. He opened his mouth, but Diane called from the kitchen that the cheeseburgers were getting cold. 20 minutes later, I backed out of the driveway with my duffel, my medication, and the cedar box buckled into the passenger seat. Eric stood under the porch light in the rain without a coat. At the first red light, my phone buzzed. I hoped it was him saying he was sorry. Instead, he wrote, "I know transitions are hard for you. Please don't turn this into a battle." The light changed. A horn sounded behind me, and for half a second I was back inside crushed metal, tasting blood and burned plastic. Then I gripped the wheel, named 5 things I could see, and drove on. The horn sounded again. I raised one hand in apology and pulled through the intersection. My breathing stayed shallow until the burned plastic taste faded. 5 things I could see: green light, white pickup, pharmacy sign, cracked dashboard, cedar box. 4 things I could feel: steering wheel, seat belt, wet sock, the hard edge of my medication bottle in my coat pocket. 3 things I could hear. The driver behind me leaning on his horn counted as only 1, no matter how committed he was. By the time I reached the pharmacy sign, my hands had stopped trembling. I turned into the parking lot and parked beneath a light. Rain moved through its yellow glow like static. Eric's message waited on my screen. "I know transitions are hard for you. Please don't turn this into a battle." I read it 3 times, which was 2 times too many. Then I took a screenshot. Not for evidence. I wasn't building a case. I had simply learned that pain could edit memory as efficiently as love did. By morning, I might convince myself he had said something gentler. I searched for hotels, but every listing became a wall of tiny words and colored prices. After the 3rd one, pressure started pulsing behind my left eye, so I called Tasha. She answered with, "If you're calling to tell me you did not stop for the burger I specifically ordered you to eat, I'm reporting you to nutrition." I put my forehead against the steering wheel. "Mara?" I stopped. "You sound weird. My mother-in-law is sleeping in my bedroom." There was a pause. "Is that a metaphor?" "No." "Okay. Is she alive?" "Yes." "Then we have options." A laugh got out before I could stop it. It hurt my head, but not in a bad way. Tasha had been a Navy corpsman for 9 years, which meant she could make any crisis sound like a slightly inconvenient rash. We had met during my 2nd week at the VA when she walked into the occupational therapy kitchen, saw me staring at a tray of blueberry muffins, and said, "If those are tactical muffins, I surrender." She had completed the residential program a month before me. Her divorce was final, her nursing license was still active, and she was working 3 shifts a week at an urgent care clinic while deciding whether she wanted the rest of her life to resemble the first half. "I need a hotel," I said. "Something quiet, ground floor or elevator. No decorative waterfalls in the lobby. You remember the place I stayed after Renee changed the locks? I remember you said the carpet looked like ham. It does. But the walls are thick and the manager has the emotional range of a stapler. You'll love him." She texted me the address while we were still talking. "Do you need me to come?" she asked. "No." Was that the true no or the decorated no? "I'm okay to drive." That was not my question. I looked at the house-shaped air freshener swinging from the rearview mirror. Eric had bought it as a joke because it smelled like something called Mountain Cabin, while our actual house usually smelled like toast and his running shoes. I don't know what I need. Excellent. Growth. I may have left 2 cheeseburgers with the enemy. Then you need food. I'll meet you there. You don't have to. Obviously. That's why it counts. She hung up. The hotel was 6 miles away behind a furniture outlet and a 24-hour gym. The carpet did look like ham. Pink circles floating in a darker pink field, and the front desk manager barely blinked when I asked for the quietest available room. "Elevator or first floor?" he asked. "First, near an exit?" "Yes, but not right beside it." "Tub or shower?" "Shower." He tapped his keyboard. "Room 118. No smoking, no pets. Breakfast ends at 9. It was the most understood I had felt all day. Room 118 had a brown recliner, a kitchenette with 2 forks, and a framed photograph of a sailboat apparently fleeing civilization. I placed the cedar box on the little table beneath the window. The bottom left a damp rectangle on the fake wood. I found the brass key where it had always been, taped underneath. The lid stuck. I worked it open carefully. The smell of wet cedar rose first, followed by paper and the faint metallic odor of the broken watch. Water had reached one corner of the unit patch, turning the tan thread dark. The letters were dry inside their plastic sleeves. I sat on the edge of the bed. My hip throbbed. My head throbbed. Even my teeth seemed to have joined the protest. I put my medication organizer on the nightstand and stared at it. Except it wasn't my organizer. It was a travel case with 4 days of pills. My weekly organizer was still in Diane's room, assuming it hadn't been thrown out to make space for wrinkle cream. I called Eric. He answered on the second ring. "Where are you? I need my medication box. I can bring it. Is it still beside the bed? I don't know. Could you look?" A muffled conversation followed. His hand covered the phone, but not well enough. Then Diane's voice came through. "I put those things in the bathroom cabinet." "What bathroom cabinet?" I asked. Eric came back. "The downstairs bathroom. Top or bottom? Hang on." More movement. A door. Something plastic fell. "Under the sink," he said. My grip tightened around the phone. My medication was under a bathroom sink. It's in a sealed box. It has my name and the words morning, noon, evening, and bedtime printed across the lid. Mom needed the nightstand. For the wrens? "They're finches," Diane called in the background. "Yesterday they were wrens. She has more than one kind, Mara." I closed my eyes. Eric lowered his voice. "I'll bring it to you. Just tell me where you are." "No, I have enough for 4 days. I'll pick it up tomorrow." "Are you honestly staying at a hotel? I'm sitting on the bed right now. This is ridiculous." A knock sounded at my door. "I have to go." "Mara, wait. We need to make a plan. You made one." I ended the call and looked through the peephole. Tasha stood outside holding a grocery bag and a yellow umbrella shaped like a duck. The beak stuck straight out over her forehead. I opened the door. She took one look at me and said, "Oh, good. You have the face." "What face?" "The one that says you are being very calm because murder would be inconvenient." She stepped inside, shook out the umbrella, and placed the grocery bag on the kitchenette counter. Tasha was short and broad-shouldered, with silver threading both temples and a surgical scar dividing her right eyebrow. She wore green clinic scrubs beneath a denim jacket. "I brought soup, crackers, electrolyte drinks, and a cheeseburger," she said. "The soup is what a medical professional recommends. The cheeseburger is what a person who knows you recommends." "You came from work?" "I was leaving." "You live 40 minutes from here. 32 if everyone respects the left lane." She noticed the cedar box. Her humor disappeared without becoming pity. That was one of her better tricks. "Water? Freezer leak? Contents? Mostly dry." "Mostly is an annoying word. The letters are fine." She nodded. At the VA, she had seen me read one of them after a therapy session went bad. She had never asked whose it was. Curiosity and entitlement were not the same thing to her. Tasha unpacked the food. "Tell me exactly what happened. If you say you're fine, I'm going to pour soup into your shoes," I told her. "Not everything." I left out the way I had leaned toward Eric when he hugged me. I left out how much I wanted to turn the car around even after seeing my dress uniform on the garage floor. But I described the room, the stairs, the contractor bags, the broken shelf resting on the cedar box. Tasha listened while peeling the paper from my burger. When I finished, she said, "So he gave his mother the accessible room. He says it was empty. You were in treatment." "I know." "Does he know?" I looked at her. She pushed the plate toward me. "Eat before you defend him." "I'm not defending him. You corrected his vocabulary in your head when I called it treatment, didn't you?" I took a bite. She smiled. There she is. The burger was lukewarm and perfect. Grease ran over my thumb. Tasha opened the soup anyway because Cortman trusted neither appetite nor civilians. "He's tired," I said after a minute. "I'm sure. He has been through a lot?" "I'm sure. You could vary the response." I could, but the current one is doing excellent work. I put the burger down. 4 months is a long time. For him, for both of us. Did 4 months cause him to forget the cedar box existed? He never knew what was in it. Tasha leaned against the counter. That sentence did not help him. I'm not trying to put him on trial. Good, because this hotel does not have a courtroom. It barely has forks. She handed me an electrolyte bottle. Your assignment tonight is not to decide your marriage, she said. Your assignment is to take your medication, eat enough food to qualify as a mammal, and sleep. Tomorrow, retrieve what you need. From my own house. Yes. I shouldn't have to retrieve it. No. I should be able to go home. Yes. Each answer landed cleanly without sanding down the edges. Tasha stayed until I finished half the soup. Before leaving, she set the duck umbrella beside the door. You forgot this. No, I didn't. It's raining. I have another umbrella in the car. Why? The duck makes people underestimate me. After she left, I put one of the dry letters on a towel beside the heater, though it didn't need drying. Then I lay on top of the bedspread in my clothes. My phone lit the ceiling every few minutes. First Eric. Mom feels terrible. Then, she had no idea you were coming home. Then, you could have handled this differently. Finally, at 11:43, I love you. Come home tomorrow and we'll figure it out. I typed, I love you too. My thumb hovered over send until the screen went dark. At 6:13, a delivery truck backed up outside my window with 3 shrill beeps. I was upright before I knew I had moved, one hand searching for a weapon that wasn't there. Pain clamped around my hip. Hotel room, brown chair, sailboat, cedar box. I breathed until the walls held still. There was no coffee in the kitchenette, only 2 tea bags labeled Calm Morning. I threw on yesterday's clothes, drank one of Tasha's electrolyte bottles, and drove home under a sky the color of dirty wool. Eric's car was gone. Diane stood in the kitchen in a white robe, pouring hot water into the French press. You're out of coffee, I said. She looked over her shoulder. I don't drink that harsh kind. Eric does. He's cutting back. Did he say that? He gets acid reflux. I opened the pantry. My coffee beans were gone. In their place sat 4 boxes of herbal tea and a glass jar of bran cereal. Diane watched me take down a travel mug. You really upset him last night. I need my medication and clean clothes. Of course you do. But before you go marching through the house, we should clear the air. I'm not marching. It's an expression. No. With me, it usually isn't. She tightened the belt of her robe. You came in without warning, insulted my belongings, and left Eric standing in the rain. He chose to stand there. He didn't sleep. Neither did I. Yes, but people expect that from you right now. The sentence was so quiet I almost missed its shape. Diane opened the refrigerator and took out milk. You're recovering. Eric is exhausted. He needs some normalcy. And you moving into my bedroom gives him that? It gives him a functioning home. I stared at her. She poured milk into her tea as if she hadn't said anything remarkable. My phone buzzed. Eric's name appeared. When I answered, he skipped hello. I've been thinking, he said. The simplest thing is for Mom to keep the downstairs room for now. You can use the office until you're fully normal again. Across the kitchen, Diane lifted her cup and took a satisfied sip. Fully normal, I repeated. Eric sighed into the phone. You know what I mean. No, I don't. Your mobility, your sleep, everything. Give me a date. A date for what? For when I'll be fully normal. Diane set her cup in the sink with unnecessary care. I'm at work, Mara. You called me. Because we need to settle this. Then settle it. Tell your mother she can use the office until she finds an apartment. Put my room back the way it was. It's not that simple. It was simple enough to dismantle. Mom can't sleep on that daybed. Neither can I. You haven't tried. The words hit a place beneath anger. A soft place, apparently, because I couldn't feel it right away. I stared at the French press. Pale brown water swirled around the plunger. Diane had reused Eric's coffee grounds and added hot water, her idea of compromise in beverage form. No, I said. I haven't. Mara, I haven't tried sleeping on the daybed. I also haven't tried showering in the upstairs tub without a grab bar carrying medication down 12 steps at night, or doing balance exercises between your printer and a daybed. I spent 4 months learning what I can safely do. I'm not running a fresh experiment because you gave the safe room to your mother. Diane folded her arms. Eric lowered his voice. Can you please stop talking about her like she's some random stranger? She isn't a stranger. A stranger might have asked. That's not fair. Which part? I had to make a decision. No, you wanted to make a decision without having to hear me disagree. I thought you'd understand. I do understand. That silenced him. I could hear office sounds behind him, a printer, a man laughing, the muffled rise and fall of voices belonging to people whose morning hadn't split open over a bedroom. I'm picking up my medication and enough clothes for the week, I said. Tonight, after work, we can talk without your mother in the room. Diane's eyebrows lifted. This is her home right now, Eric said. It's mine all the time. I ended the call. Diane leaned against the sink. You enjoy doing that. Doing what? Making everything sound like an order. I said we could talk. You told him when and where. Should I have submitted 3 dates through his secretary? He doesn't have a secretary. I know, Diane. You think you're funny. Sometimes I'm delightful. She looked offended by the possibility. I went to the downstairs bathroom. My medication organizer was beneath the sink behind a package of toilet paper and a basket of Diane's cleaning products. The lid had popped open. 2 white tablets and a blue capsule lay loose beside the pipes. I knelt carefully and took a photograph. Diane appeared in the doorway. What are you doing? Documenting which pills touched the floor. They were only there overnight. That makes them cleaner? I didn't put them like that. I didn't say you did. Her face changed. You implied it. I took a picture. Exactly. I gathered the loose pills into a tissue and placed the organizer on the counter. 3 evening compartments were empty. I couldn't tell whether the pills on the floor accounted for everything. Diane watched me count. If you'd called, she said, we could have prepared. Prepared what? The house, the room upstairs, your prescriptions. My prescriptions were already prepared. That's why they were organized. You don't need to speak to me like I'm stupid. I'm speaking to you like someone moved my medication under a sink. Eric did that. You said you did. I said I put those things in the cabinet. I didn't say I knocked anything over. That was how conversations with Diane worked. Every sentence had a little emergency exit she could slip through while you were still reaching for the handle. I carried the organizer into my bedroom. Her bedroom, according to the wreath, the bed had been made with sharp corners. The floral quilt was folded at the foot, and 6 decorative pillows occupied the place where a person might reasonably put their head. My medication table had been pushed into the closet. I recognized one chipped corner beneath a stack of shoeboxes. I pulled it out. Please don't rearrange my room, Diane said behind me. The table scraped across the floor. Your room? Where I'm staying. My name is written on the underside. I'm not discussing furniture ownership. I turned the table over. Mara Ellison was printed in black marker beneath the VA inventory sticker. Eric had written my name there himself after the delivery driver warned us that adapted equipment sometimes got mixed up during installations. Diane's mouth tightened. I told you I'm not discussing it. It isn't a discussion. I set the table upright and placed my medication on it. Then I opened the closet. Half of Diane's clothes had price tags attached. Blouses in white, ivory, eggshell, and other colors invented to justify buying the same blouse 4 times. My old charcoal robe hung at the far end, squeezed between 2 garment bags. I took it down. Is that all you came for? She asked. No. Mara, I'm not comfortable with you going through the closet. You mean my closet? I mean the closet containing my personal things. Then you might want to step outside while I look for mine. She didn't move. Neither did I. After a few seconds, she made a sharp little gesture with one hand. Fine. I'll be in the kitchen. She picked up the wreath before she left, as if I might steal that too. I found 3 of my t-shirts in the bottom drawer, beneath Diane's scarves. Everything else was in the garage. Dragging contractor bags across wet concrete wasn't on any of my discharge plans. I opened them one by one and made piles. Clean enough, needs washing, damaged, irrelevant. The blue uniform jacket went into the damaged pile. A wool sweater smelled like gasoline. 2 pairs of jeans had somehow acquired potting soil. The balance board was dry, but one resistance band had a notch where the lawnmower handle pinched it. I threw that band away. Rubber under tension didn't offer second chances. My framed commendations stayed face down. It wasn't shame. I just couldn't bear the sight of them while kneeling on a garage floor, sorting my underwear from leaf bags. My phone rang inside my coat. Daniel. Eric had called reinforcements. I considered letting it go to voicemail, but my brother treated unanswered calls like smoke alarms. "What happened?" he asked. "Good morning to you too. Eric says you came home early, found Diane there, and left." That is the children's menu version. I'm trying to understand. No, you're trying to mediate. Your voice goes half an octave lower when you mediate. I'm a paramedic. My voice is professionally calming. You sound like a podcast for nervous horses. He laughed despite himself. You okay? No. The word surprised both of us. His voice lost its performance. Are you hurt? My hip's angry, my head's manageable. Where are you? A hotel. Why? Diane is in my bedroom. I know. Eric said they set up the office for you. I sat back on my heels. He called you before he called me, I said. He called last night. What did he tell you? That Diane lost her apartment, there was a miscommunication, and you got overwhelmed. My hand closed around a clump of wet fabric. Did he mention my belongings are in contractor bags? No. My medication was loose under the bathroom sink. What? The shelf in the garage was balanced on the cedar box. Silence. Daniel knew the box. Not everything inside, but enough. Okay, he said. That's not good. Strong diagnosis. I'm not defending him. You called to ask why I'm at a hotel. I called because he's scared. Of me? For you. That's a useful preposition. Mara, come on. I closed my eyes. What does he want you to do? He didn't ask me to do anything. Daniel, he asked if I thought the program should have given him more notice about your discharge. My head began to pulse again. The program did give him notice. I called from the parking lot after they approved my discharge. He didn't answer, so I left a message saying I was coming home. Yesterday? Yes. What time? 9 in the morning. You got home after 3. He had 6 hours. Daniel exhaled. Maybe he didn't check voicemail. Maybe. Look, let me come over. I can help move your stuff. I don't need. I stopped. The damaged pile had grown. The clean enough pile was smaller than the bag I had planned to carry it in. My hip felt like someone had driven a hot nail through the joint. I can be there in 20, Daniel said, 30. And don't talk to Diane about my marriage. I can't promise not to speak in her presence. You know what I mean? Yeah, he said. I usually do. He arrived in 23 minutes wearing navy paramedic pants and a gray sweatshirt. His dark hair stood up on one side, and he carried 2 coffees in a cardboard tray. I guessed black, he said. You remembered black. That makes me sound less heroic. Daniel was 3 years younger and had spent most of our adult lives pretending our similarities were coincidences. Same habit of checking exits, same crooked right thumb, same inability to apologize without first offering a beverage. He surveyed the garage. The humor left his face. Jesus, keep your voice down. The wrens are resting. What? Never mind. He handed me a coffee and lifted my uniform jacket by the shoulders. Mud marked the cuff. He rubbed it with his thumb, which only spread the stain. Eric did this? Eric moved it. Daniel looked toward the interior door. Don't, I said. I'm just looking. You're looking in paramedic. I don't know what that means. It means you think if you move fast enough, nobody can stop you. He put the jacket carefully over a box. What are we taking? 2 bags of clothes, the balance board. The cedar box is already at the hotel. Pictures. Not today. Why? Because I said, not today. His jaw worked, but he nodded. We carried the first bag to his truck. Or Daniel carried it while I held doors and resented his functional hip. On the second trip, Diane stepped into the garage. She had changed into beige slacks and one of the 4 identical blouses. "Daniel," she said warmly, "it's good to see you." "Diane, I wish it were under better circumstances." He looked at the contractor bag in his hands. "Yeah, I suppose Mara told you her version." I took a sip of coffee. Daniel glanced at me, then at her. "I can see the bags. We had very little time." "You had 3 weeks," I said. Diane ignored me. "Eric has tried so hard to make everyone comfortable." Daniel looked through the open door toward the stairs. "Why didn't you take the office?" "My back." He blinked once. "Right. Mara is doing stairs now. That doesn't make stairs safe at 2 a.m. Something shifted in Diane's expression. She had expected him to be polite enough to agree with her. "I'm not the one who decided any of this," she said. "No," I said. "You're just the one sleeping there." Daniel loaded the second bag without another word. After he left for his shift, I put my medication organizer on the passenger seat and went back inside for the balance board. The house smelled like Diane's lavender spray. My bedroom door was closed. The wreath hung on it again. Eric arrived while I was in the hallway, his tie loosened and rain darkening the shoulders of his coat. "You called Daniel?" I asked. "I needed to know you were safe. You could have called me." "You hung up on me." "This morning." "You called him last night?" He stopped. I watched him realize I knew about the voicemail. "You knew I was coming home," I said. "I heard it late." "How late?" He looked at the wreath instead of me. "After you got here, your phone shows voicemail transcripts. I was busy. For 6 hours. I had meetings. Mom needed groceries. I didn't see it. You told Daniel the VA should have warned you. They should have. I warned you." "You left a voicemail, Mara. That isn't a plan." I picked up the balance board. He blocked neither me nor the door, but somehow the hallway felt narrower. "I need time to figure this out," he said. "You had 3 weeks. I thought you might stay in the program longer." "Why?" His face softened, which made the answer worse. "Because I didn't think you were ready. To come home? To handle all this?" I looked past him at the stairs, the closed bedroom, the little wooden sign welcoming the wrong woman home. "Maybe," he said carefully. "They discharged you too early." I studied his face for any sign that he understood what he had just done. There wasn't one. The balance board pressed against my thigh, its textured surface caught on my coat, making a soft rasp each time I breathed. "Say that again," I said. Eric's eyes moved toward mine. "I'm not trying to hurt you. That wasn't what you said." I said maybe the discharge happened too fast. "You said they discharged me too early. Those are the same thing. They aren't when one of them makes my being here the problem." He rubbed both hands over his face. "This is exactly what I mean. Every word becomes a test. I spent 4 months being tested. Nobody at the VA asked whether my return would be convenient for your mother. Could we leave my mother out of one sentence? She's behind that door. She had nowhere to go. She had an upstairs office. Her back. Stop." My voice filled the hallway. Not loud, but hard enough that the television went silent in the living room. Diane had been listening. Eric's shoulders rose. That hurt too. He had seen me angry before the accident. He had seen me throw a frying pan into the yard when the handle broke for the 3rd time. He had watched me argue with a mechanic who charged me for a repair he hadn't done. Back then, he called me relentless. Now he looked at me as though anger itself proved damage. I lowered my voice. "I am not discussing Diane's back again. The downstairs room was adapted for me. It needs to be restored. And where does she go? The office. She's 68. She can climb stairs. So can you. Not safely at night. You just climbed them this morning, with you standing behind me. Then I'll help you. Every time I need the bathroom, if that's what it takes. What happens when you're asleep? He opened his mouth. What happens when you're at work? What happens when I get a migraine and my depth perception goes bad? Do I call your mother to escort me down the hallway of my own house? Don't be dramatic. The living room floor creaked. Diane appeared at the end of the hall, no longer pretending she wasn't involved. I don't want to be the cause of trouble, she said. I looked at her. Then move upstairs. Her lips parted. Eric stepped between us, not physically blocking me, but close enough to make his allegiance visible. She isn't moving tonight. I didn't say tonight. When? By Friday. It was Tuesday. 3 days to move one woman's clothes and a collection of nervous ceramic birds up 12 steps. I could have done it in an afternoon before the rollover. Eric laughed once without humor. You're giving us a deadline? I'm giving you time. It doesn't sound like it. What would time sound like? Like a conversation. Like some flexibility, not Friday at 1700 hours. I said Friday. I didn't say 1700. That's how you think. No, Eric, that's how you hear me. Diane's arms folded tighter across her blouse. I have appointments to look at apartments. Good. The market is very difficult. I believe you. I won't be pushed into some unsafe little box because you need to prove a point. I'm not choosing your apartment. You're making me feel unwelcome. I stared at the wreath on my door. I came home yesterday, I said. My clothes were in garbage bags. Contractor bags, Eric said. His face changed the moment the correction left his mouth. Diane looked down. The absurdity almost made me smile. Eric had spent years complaining that I corrected irrelevant details when I was nervous. Now he had reached for the tensile strength of plastic because the truth was too heavy. Yes, I said, the premium kind. He stepped closer. What do you want from me? My room. I know that. I mean right now. I want you to say what happened without changing the subject to my tone, my discharge, or Diane's back. He looked at the floor. Rain ticked against the narrow window beside the front door. The house made its familiar sounds around us, the heater coughing awake, a pipe knocking in the wall, the loose vent over the living room clicking as warm air moved through it. I knew every sound. For 9 years, they had meant I was home. Eric spoke quietly. I let Mom use the room because you weren't here. And I didn't think you'd be back yet. And when I came back, I was surprised. That isn't the part I'm asking about. What do you want me to say? That you expected me to sleep upstairs because moving her would embarrass her. His gaze flicked toward Diane. There it was, not confusion, not revelation, calculation. He had understood the conflict from the beginning. He just believed I would be easier to disappoint. Friday, I said. The room needs the blackout curtains, the rail, my medication table, and enough clear floor for my exercises. Diane can stay in the house while she looks for an apartment. She just cannot stay in that room. Diane shook her head. You expect me to pack everything again after 3 weeks? Yes. I just got settled. So did I, before I left. Eric's voice sharpened. And if it isn't done by Friday? The answer that came to mind was military, simple and useless. Consequences weren't threats you announced for effect. They were decisions you carried out. I'll decide what I'm willing to live with, I said. He gave a bitter laugh. That sounds healthy. It came directly from therapy. That shut him up for half a second. I moved toward the front door. Mara, he said. I stopped, but didn't turn. If you go back to that hotel, that is your decision. I'm not forcing you out. The sentence entered me slowly. Behind my eyes, a headache opened like dark water. I turned then. There's nowhere safe for me to sleep here. The office is safe. You don't know that. Neither do you. You refuse to try. The occupational therapist measured the room. When? Before residential treatment. When we planned my return. I don't remember that. You weren't here. I was working. You said you'd make the next appointment. I had a client emergency. You were supposed to join by video. My day got away from me. Diane shifted impatiently. This is becoming a list of grievances. It's becoming a timeline, I said. Eric's expression hardened. Fine. Go to the hotel, cool off, we'll talk when you're not exhausted. He said it like permission. I left before I gave him an answer he could use against me. The rain had turned thin and icy. I put the balance board in the back seat, sat behind the wheel, and waited for the headache to settle enough to drive. Through the living room window, I saw Diane touch Eric's arm. He bent his head while she spoke. The porch light cast them in warm yellow. I felt like I was spying on my own life. At the hotel, the front desk manager slid a paper across the counter. "Weekly rate," he said. "Cheaper than paying nightly." I looked at the number. It wasn't ruinous. It was simply more than I wanted to spend proving I needed a bed I already had. How long do I have to decide? Checkout tomorrow is 11. Right. He glanced at my cane. Elevator's being serviced Thursday. I'm on the first floor. Yes. It was his way of telling me he remembered. I appreciated it enough to resent everyone who didn't. In my room, I lined up the clothes Daniel had helped me retrieve. 4 t-shirts, 2 pairs of jeans, underwear in various states of dignity, my charcoal robe. The blue uniform jacket lay across the recliner with the muddy cuff resting on a towel. I called the dry cleaner. The woman who answered asked what caused the stain. Wet garage floor. Oil? Maybe. Is there mildew? I don't think so. Don't let it dry near heat. Bring it tomorrow. I wrote the instructions on the hotel notepad, though there were only 3. My phone buzzed with a message from Daniel. You were right. I waited. The typing dots appeared, vanished, then appeared again. He sent, "About the room." "Not everything. Don't get excited." I wrote back, "My joy is unmanageable." He replied with a thumbs down. A second message came a minute later. Eric called me again. I told him the office isn't safe. My shoulders loosened slightly. What did he say? That you're making him choose between you and Diane. I stared at the screen. Before I could answer, the phone rang. It was Eric. I let it ring twice, then answered. "Hi," he said, cautious now. "Hi, I don't want to fight." "Okay, I mean it. Okay?" Silence. At the VA, our communication counselor had called, "I don't want to fight a preemptive accusation." I had laughed at the phrase then because it sounded like something printed on a throw pillow. Eric cleared his throat. "I've been looking at the office." "So have I. I can move the desk into our bedroom. Your bedroom. Our primary bedroom." I said nothing. "That would open up a lot of space," he continued. "We can get a better mattress, maybe one of those adjustable ones. There's still no safe bathroom access. We'll add something." "What? A rail? Lights? Whatever you need. By Friday?" He exhaled. "Why are you fixated on Friday? Because without a date, we'll add something means nothing. I'm trying to compromise. You're trying to improve the room I said I can't safely use. Because it solves the problem. It solves Diane's problem. She is not the enemy. I did not call her the enemy. You treat her like one. I gave her 3 more days in my room than she gave me. That sentence doesn't even make sense. It does from the hotel." He breathed into the phone, slow and controlled. I recognized the technique. I had taught it to him during one of my early panic attacks, pressing his palm against my ribs so he could feel the pace. "I love you," he said. The words were real. That was what made everything harder. "I love you too. Then come home. Put my room back." He was quiet for so long I checked whether the call had dropped. Finally he said, "I can't humiliate my mother like that." I closed my eyes. "You already chose who to humiliate," I said. "You just thought I'd take it better." I ended the call. An hour later, a photograph arrived from Eric. He had moved his desk out of the office. The printer was gone. The mail had been stacked neatly in a corner. A new lamp stood beside the daybed, and my green towel remained folded across its foot. "Plenty of room now," he wrote. I enlarged the photograph. At the far edge, where the hallway began, I could see the top of the staircase and the strip of blue painter's tape marking the place where the handrail still ended. I sent back one sentence. "The stairs are still there. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, and never came back. I plugged my phone into the lamp and tried to sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the office photograph, not the cleaned floor or the lamp, but the blue strip of tape at the end of the rail. Eric had taken the picture from an angle that almost hid it. That detail bothered me more than if he had simply forgotten. Forgetting was careless. Framing was a choice. At 7, I carried my uniform jacket to the dry cleaner. The woman behind the counter spread the cuff under a bright lamp and examined it through square red glasses. "Oil," she said. "Can you get it out?" "Probably." "How much does probably cost?" $28. "And definitely?" She looked over her glasses. "Definitely costs a new jacket." I liked her. She pinned a tag to the inside collar, then ran one finger along the row of ribbons. "Army?" "Yes." "My sister was Air Force. She says that means she stayed in hotels while you slept in holes. She's not wrong, she usually isn't. Very annoying woman. She gave me a claim ticket and promised to call before attempting anything aggressive. It was more consent than my belongings had received at home. My first outpatient appointment was across town in a low brick VA building with automatic doors that opened half a second too slowly. I had worked with the physical therapist, Naomi, before entering residential treatment. She wore purple sneakers and kept a plastic skeleton named Kevin in the corner of her office. Kevin had gained a Santa hat since I last saw him. "You're early," Naomi said. "Apparently that's becoming a problem." She glanced up from her tablet. "For me, it means I can eat lunch on time." I sat on the padded table and handed her the discharge packet. She checked my range of motion, made me walk heel to toe, then had me stand on a foam pad while turning my head. I lasted 14 seconds. At the residential program, I had managed 22. Naomi steadied my elbow. Again. "I know." I didn't say anything. "You inhaled professionally. Occupational hazard." The second attempt lasted 11 seconds. She lowered the lights when I squinted. "Travel day catch up with you?" "Something like that. Are you doing the home routine?" "I have the equipment." That wasn't my question. I focused on Kevin's plastic grin. Naomi waited. My home setup changed. "How?" "The downstairs room isn't available." She stopped typing. "Temporarily?" "That's the debate. Where are you sleeping?" "A hotel." She didn't gasp or tell me to leave Eric. She rolled her stool closer and asked, "Do you feel safe there?" "Yes." "Do you have shower access?" "Yes." "Medication storage?" "Yes." "Space for the board, between the bed and the sailboat." "The what?" "Art." She nodded as though this completed a clinical picture. "We built your discharge routine around the downstairs room," she said. "If that space isn't available, we adjust the routine. We don't pretend the environment is different." "I know." "Good. Then stop testing yourself after moving bags for 2 days. I moved 1 bag. Your brother carried 2. I stared at her. "Tasha texted me. That violates at least 9 laws. Tasha said, and I quote, "Tell Sergeant Stubborn that inflammation outranks her." No medical information was exchanged. "I'm going to poison her soup. After you rest." Naomi cut my exercises in half for 48 hours. I hated the instructions so much I knew she was right. While she printed the revised routine, she said, "Did you ever contact that logistics company?" "What logistics company?" "The one from the vocational workshop, Crossroads Distribution." I remembered. Regional warehouses, medical supplies, a civilian operations coordinator position. The recruiter had liked that I understood both inventory systems and what happened when a system met actual human beings. I had taken the brochure home 3 months before residential treatment. No, position closes Monday. I'm not ready to work full-time. It's listed as flexible transition, 20 hours to start. I'm still losing arguments with foam. Kevin loses arguments with gravity every night. I stand him up every morning. As if on cue, the skeleton's left hand dropped off and hit the floor. Naomi looked at it. "He's dramatic." I laughed, then pressed 2 fingers to my temple. She handed me the printout. "Applying isn't accepting. Interviewing isn't promising. You're allowed to gather information. Eric had said work would be too much stimulation. He had said schedules could trigger the part of me that no longer knew how to stop. At the time, it sounded protective. Now I wondered whether everything sounded protective if you wrapped it in enough concern. In the parking lot, I searched Crossroads Distribution on my phone. The application page was still active. I saved it and didn't open it. Rest was harder at the hotel because there was nothing useful to do. I lay with ice on my hip and listened to the air conditioner cycle on and off. At noon, the manager called to ask whether I wanted the weekly rate. Yes, I said. The word felt larger than a hotel reservation. He slid a new agreement under my door. I signed it and carried it back to the desk. When I returned, there were 2 messages from Eric. The first said, "Mom has an apartment viewing today." The second said, "I extended the stair rail." He included a photograph. The news section was unfinished. Pine attached below the old dark-stained rail with silver brackets. It ran to the bottom step. I enlarged the image. The brackets looked sturdy. The work looked rushed. "Thank you," I wrote. He answered immediately. "So, you'll come home tonight?" I stared at the question. The stair rail had been on our list for 6 months. He had completed it in one morning, not to make the house safer, but to make my objection disappear. "The bedroom?" I asked. No response. I drove to the house in the afternoon because my travel pills were nearly gone, and I needed the resistance bands. The new rail was solid. I tested every bracket, pulled hard, and felt the old satisfaction of finding competent work. Eric could still surprise me. That almost made it worse. Diane was sitting at the kitchen table with an apartment brochure and a cup of pale coffee. She wore lipstick and pearl earrings. The viewing had apparently required formal deployment. "How was it?" I asked. She folded the brochure. Tiny. "Safe?" It smelled like boiled cabbage. So unsafe. The elevator made a grinding noise. That could be unsafe. She seemed disappointed that I agreed. I opened the cupboard under the sink and retrieved my medication organizer. Diane watched me inspect the compartments. "I didn't know Eric put your clothes in those bags," she said. My hand paused. "He said he boxed everything. He didn't. I saw the garage after Daniel came. Did you see the cedar box holding up the shelf?" Her eyes moved toward the window. "I didn't know that was important. It shouldn't have to be important to avoid becoming furniture. I told Eric that. That surprised me enough to turn around." Diane smoothed the apartment brochure with both palms. He should have been more careful. "Thank you. It doesn't change the room situation." There she was. I set the organizer on the counter. "Did you know the room was adapted for me?" "I knew you preferred it." "That isn't what I asked." "He said the arrangements might change when you came home." "How?" "He thought you might move back upstairs with him." I looked toward the ceiling. Diane's voice softened. "Married people sleeping separately is rarely a sign of health. It kept him from waking when I had nightmares. People adjust. I was the one sleeping downstairs, and Eric was alone." The old refrigerator clicked off. In the sudden quiet, I heard the wall clock above the pantry. "You think I abandoned him?" I asked. "I think illness can make a person very focused on herself. Injury." "What?" "I was injured. I didn't catch marriage flu." She sighed. "There, that's sarcasm. You use it whenever anyone says something difficult. You just said my recovery made me selfish. I said Eric has needs too. I know he does. Do you?" Her question didn't sound cruel. That was the trouble. Diane genuinely believed she was asking something overdue. She traced the edge of the brochure. "When Martin got sick, nobody asked what I needed. For 6 years, the entire house revolved around his pills, his meals, his appointments. If he was awake, I was awake. If he was angry, I was supposed to understand. After he died, everyone told me how devoted I had been, as if devotion was a lovely dress I'd enjoyed wearing. I had never heard her speak about Eric's father that way. At the funeral, she had stood beside the casket accepting compliments on her strength. "That sounds lonely," I said. "It was exhausting." So you understand why the room matters. Her expression closed. I understand what happens to a marriage when one person's condition takes over. There it was, not ignorance, but inheritance. Diane had survived caregiving by turning need into rank. The sick person occupied the center. The caregiver earned the right to resent it. Did Eric tell you I might be transferred somewhere else? I asked. He said there was a step-down option. There was. I declined it. He said it could be several more months. He knew I was coming home this month. He hoped you would, of course. That phrase sat wrong. Hoped? Diane reached for her cup. He was trying not to make plans until things were certain. You moved in. My lease ended. You hung pictures. I needed to feel settled. You repainted. Her fingers tightened around the cup. Eric said the darker walls weren't good for you. The darker walls helped my migraines. Well, he said it was temporary. Paint is a strange kind of temporary. Diane stood and carried her cup to the sink. You should ask your husband what he meant. The front door opened before I could answer. Eric came in carrying a hardware store bag and a small level. He smiled when he saw me, and the hope in it was so unguarded that I nearly hated myself for what came next. You saw the rail? He asked. I did. It's solid. I used longer anchors than the package recommended. Good. We can stain it this weekend. Diane left the kitchen without looking at him. Eric watched her go. What happened? Did you tell her I might be gone for several more months? His smile faded. I said it was possible. Was it? You had the step-down option. I told you I declined it. You said you were leaning against it. I declined it before I left for residential treatment. He set the hardware bag on the counter. Mara, your recovery hasn't followed a straight line. No recovery does. I couldn't plan around every possibility. So you planned around the one where I didn't come home. That's not fair. Did you tell Diane she could have my room for months? I told her she wouldn't be rushed. The wall clock ticked above us. And what did you tell me? I asked. He looked tired then. Not guilty, not defensive, just tired enough to tell the truth badly. I didn't tell you, he said, because I knew you'd say no. The honesty of it made the kitchen feel colder. You knew I'd say no, I repeated. Eric put the level beside the hardware bag, because there wasn't another realistic option. The office. We already covered that. No, you dismissed it because your mother has a backache. It's more than a backache. Then why is the office good enough for me? It isn't. That's why I fixed the rail. You fixed one rail and cleared the room. The bathroom still isn't safe. The bed still isn't safe. The lighting, I said, will change whatever needs changing. So you'll spend money rebuilding a second accessible space to avoid returning the one we already built. He leaned both hands on the counter. You're treating rooms like they have moral value. I'm treating my body like it has physical limits. And I'm trying to work within them. No, you're trying to move them. His jaw tightened. I had Mom coming out of her apartment. I had you in a residential program with no fixed discharge date. I made the best decision I could. You had a wife with a phone. You were struggling. I could still answer a question. You couldn't always make it through a conversation. That landed because it was true. There had been calls when words stopped making sense halfway through. Calls when Eric's voice sharpened my headache until I asked him to repeat simple things, then forgot what he had said. Once I accused him of whispering when he was speaking normally. Another time, I fell asleep while he told me about a dispute with the insurance company. He watched those memories reach me and mistook my silence for surrender. I was trying to protect you, he said, from saying no, from feeling responsible for my mother being homeless. She wasn't homeless. She had notice, savings, and an adult son helping her. She was panicking. So you made sure I didn't get a vote. I made sure one crisis got solved. By creating another one I wouldn't discover until I came through the door. He turned away and opened the hardware bag. Inside were wood plugs, sandpaper, and a small can of stain. He took each item out and lined it up. Organizing things had always calmed him. During my first deployment, he had alphabetized our spice cabinet. I came home to find cumin between coriander and dill, and for 2 months I couldn't cook without thinking about how much he had missed me. I needed something to be manageable, he said. His back was still to me. The anger inside me shifted, not gone, but forced to share space with something older. Was I unmanageable? You were hurt. That wasn't my question. He adjusted the sandpaper so its edge aligned with the counter. I never knew what version of the day we were going to have, he said. You might wake up feeling good and make 6 plans. Then a truck backfired or the microwave beeped too long, and we had to leave wherever we were. You'd apologize, but I still had to explain it to everyone. Explain what? Why dinner ended? Why we canceled? Why you weren't coming? I thought we stopped making plans. You stopped. People still asked. I stared at him. Who asked? He shook his head. That isn't the point. It is if people have been inviting us places and you didn't tell me. Mara, please don't take one sentence and build another investigation. Then answer it. He turned around. Friends, people from work, neighbors. You told me they stopped asking because it was easier. For who? For both of us. The kitchen clock sounded louder than it had any right to. He reached for my hand. I let him touch it, though my fingers stayed still in his. I'm not proud of everything, he said. I was tired. I am tired. But I love you. I want you home. In the office. For now. With your mother in my room. Until she finds a place. And if she hates every apartment, she won't. She called one unsafe because it smelled like cabbage. Despite himself, he smiled. She did hate that. For a moment, we were on the same side of something. It happened so easily. That was the muscle memory of us. Then he squeezed my hand and said, "Come home tonight." I pulled away. His face closed. "Friday," I said. "I am not moving her by Friday." "Then you've made your decision. You keep saying that like I'm choosing her over you. You keep choosing her comfort over my safety and asking me not to describe it. She would be humiliated. So was I. That was never my intention. It was still the result." He looked toward the doorway where Diane had disappeared. When he spoke again, his voice was low. "Could you give me 1 week? You already had 3. 1 more. Let me help her find somewhere decent. You can help her from the office. She won't agree to that. Then I guess you do understand the power of no." I picked up the resistance bands and left. The Crossroads application was open on my phone when I returned to the hotel. I transferred it to my laptop because the first page asked for employment history, and typing dates with my thumbs felt like a punishment invented by someone who hated veterans. The last civilian job on my resume was 11 years old. Before that, my work experience consisted largely of military language that sounded either impressive or meaningless depending on who read it. Managed theater-level sustainment operations, coordinated multimodal movement, supervised inventory accountability. I changed the first line to kept people and equipment moving when plans failed. Then I deleted it because it sounded like a motivational poster. I tried again. After 20 minutes, the words blurred. I set a timer, dimmed the screen, and used the process I had learned at residential rehab. 1 section, 5-minute break, check for errors, stop before fatigue made the decisions. At the VA, I had hated that process. Before the rollover, I could work 12 hours, eat crackers over a keyboard, and catch a transposed number in a 6-page manifest. Now I needed a timer to fill out my address, but the address got filled out. The employment history got filled out. When the application asked whether I could perform essential duties with reasonable accommodations, my finger hovered over the answer. I clicked yes. A knock sounded just as I reached the resume upload. Daniel stood outside with a laundry basket. "You own a bag," I said. "Baskets imply wholesome intentions." "Whose basket is that?" "Mine." "You don't own a laundry basket." "I purchased one." "For this?" "It was $8. I stepped aside. He carried the basket to the bed. My clothes were folded into tight rectangles, except for one t-shirt whose sleeves stuck out like ears. "Did you do this?" I asked. "I did the washing." The folding became hostile. I touched the top shirt. It smelled like unscented detergent, not garage water. "Thank you. Don't make it weird." I said 2 words. "You used the voice." "What voice? The one where you're about to forgive me for being an idiot?" I looked at him. He shoved both hands into his sweatshirt pockets. "I thought you were overreacting." "I know. I thought you got surprised, got overwhelmed, and left before anybody could calm things down. I know. I also thought if the office was cleaned out, you could probably just use it." My hip throbbed in agreement with how angry that made me. Daniel raised a hand. Past tense. I went back after my shift. Why? I wanted to see the stairs. Did Eric ask you to? No. He stopped answering me after I said the office wasn't safe. Daniel sat in the brown recliner and leaned forward. "I saw your medication table in Diane's closet," he said. "Your name was on it. That did it?" "No." The name just made it harder to pretend this was some mix-up. "I saw the wall where the rail had been. I saw your rehab schedule in the recycling bin." I went still. My calendar? It was underneath a cereal box. I took it out. "Where is it?" "In my truck." The calendar wasn't valuable. It was poster board covered in colored blocks, reminders and small goals I had written in thick marker. Walk to mailbox. Prepare lunch without sitting. Shower independently. Ask for help before pain reaches 7. Eric had celebrated when I checked off the mailbox. He took a picture of me standing beside it, holding up the envelope like I'd won something. "Why was it in the recycling?" I asked. I didn't ask Diane. "Why not?" "Because you told me not to discuss your marriage." "My calendar isn't my marriage. I was trying to respect the perimeter." "You could have asked about trash. See, this is why nobody likes rules of engagement." He rubbed his palms together. "I'm sorry," he said. "Not general sorry. I'm sorry I called to calm you down before I knew what happened. I'm sorry I heard hotel and assumed you were the unstable part of the story." The room went blurry for a second. I blinked hard. Daniel looked toward my laptop. "What's Crossroads?" "A logistics job. You applying?" "Maybe." That screen says, "Submit." I'm aware of how buttons work. "Did Eric change his mind about you going back to work?" I didn't ask. Daniel's eyebrows rose, but he was learning. He didn't turn it into a celebration. "Want your calendar?" he asked. "Later." "Want me to stay while you hit submit?" "No." "True no or decorated no?" I stared at him. "What?" he said. "Tasha called me." After he left, I uploaded the resume and read every answer twice. Then a third time because the second reading didn't stick. I clicked submit alone. The confirmation email arrived at 6:12. At 6:14, Eric texted. "I scheduled a marriage counselor for Friday afternoon. I hope you'll come." Below that was a second message. "Mom is staying in the downstairs room until counseling helps us find a fair compromise." Friday had not arrived yet, but he had already decided my boundary was one more symptom to be treated. I wrote back, "I'll come." "Counseling does not change Friday." He read it immediately. No answer. Daniel brought the calendar that evening. He had flattened it beneath a stack of ambulance training manuals, which left faint ridges across the poster board. One corner smelled like brand cereal. "Diane's new brand," he said. "It has a lighthouse on the box, so you know it tastes like rope." I taped the calendar to the hotel wall beside the sailboat photograph. The first months were crowded with red X's where pain or headaches had stopped me. Later, the red became yellow, then green. Eric's handwriting appeared in several squares. "Mailbox, no cane. Cooked actual dinner. Eggs do not count. Beat me at Scrabble while medicated. Suspicious." I ran my thumb over that last one. "Want me to rip his comments off?" Daniel asked. "No." "Want me to stop offering solutions?" "Very much." He sat on the edge of the recliner. "You really applied for that job?" "Yes." "What happens if they call?" I answer. What happens if they hire you? I panic in an organized way. Family tradition. My phone rang before he left. The number was local but unfamiliar. A woman named Simone from Crossroads thanked me for applying and asked whether I could do a video interview Monday morning. Her voice was quick and cheerful, every sentence moving directly into the next. I had to press one finger against my temple to keep track. Monday works, I said. 10 o'clock? Yes. I'll email a link and a short overview. Nothing formal. We want to hear how you approach problems. I looked at the calendar on the wall. I can do that. After the call, Daniel held up both hands. I'm not celebrating. Good. I am standing in a celebratory posture for unrelated reasons. You're sitting. Internally. I threw a hotel pillow at him. It fell 4 feet short. He retrieved it and placed it back on the bed without comment. Friday afternoon, the marriage counselor's office was between an orthodontist and a store that sold personalized cutting boards. A sign in the lobby requested that clients avoid wearing strong fragrances. The air smelled overwhelmingly of cinnamon. Eric arrived 3 minutes after me, carrying 2 coffees. I got yours black, he said. Thank you. He handed it over, then bent as if to kiss my cheek. We both noticed the hesitation. I turned slightly and his mouth landed near my temple. For years, he kissed that exact place whenever he passed behind my chair. Neither of us mentioned it. The counselor introduced herself as Ellen Price. She was in her 50s with silver hair cut to her chin and bright orange sneakers beneath gray trousers. Her office had 2 identical armchairs angled toward a couch. Eric chose the couch. I chose one of the chairs. He looked at the empty cushion beside him. Ellen noticed. She didn't tell me where to sit. What brings you in? She asked. My wife came home early from a residential rehabilitation program, Eric began, and there was a misunderstanding about her room. I took a sip of coffee. Ellen looked at me. Is that how you understand it? No. Eric's knee started moving. How would you describe it? She asked. My husband gave my adapted bedroom to his mother while I was gone. He put my belongings in the garage and expected me to sleep in an upstairs office that isn't safe for me. It can be safe, Eric said. I added a rail and cleared it out. Is it safe now? Ellen asked. I believe it is. She looked at me. It isn't. What remains unsafe? The bathroom has no grab bar. The tub wall is high. The route from the bed requires passing an open staircase. The mattress is narrow and sags in the center. Bright light from the east-facing window can trigger migraines. I ordered blackout curtains, Eric said. For which room? The office. Ellen wrote something on her pad. Eric leaned forward. I'm trying. That's what I need you to understand. The original arrangement was temporary. Mara and I used to share the primary bedroom. After her accident, she moved downstairs because she couldn't manage the stairs, and her sleep was unpredictable. Now she's improving. Improving doesn't mean the limits vanished, I said. I didn't say that. You said I can manage upstairs because I'm improving. I said we can adapt. Ellen raised one hand and we stopped. Eric, what outcome are you hoping for? I want my wife home. Where would she sleep? He hesitated. In the office for now. And your mother? In the downstairs room until she finds an apartment. How long might that take? I don't know, Gora. Has she set a target date? She's looking. That wasn't the question, I said. Eric looked at me. Why do you do that? Do what? Pounce on every imperfect answer. Ellen spoke before I could. What happens for you when Mara asks for a specific answer? It feels like an interrogation. Because she asks twice? Because of how she asks. There's no room in it. I set the coffee on the floor. What would room sound like? Ellen asked him. Like she understood there are other people involved. Like she trusted me to handle things. Mara trusted me. Past tense, though he hadn't said it that way. Ellen turned to me. What happens for you when Eric asks for trust? I think about my clothes and contractor bags. Eric's mouth tightened. I think about my medication under the sink, I continued. I think about the rehabilitation calendar and the recycling. I think about him deciding his mother could have my room because he knew I'd say no. Ellen looked at him. Did you say that? I said, I knew she would object. You said, I knew you'd say no. That's the same basic idea. No, I said. Objecting is noise. Saying no is a decision. His knee moved faster. This is the problem, he told Ellen. She turns every conversation into semantics. Words are how conversations work. You know what I mean, even when you pretend you don't. Sometimes I genuinely don't. That's one of the reasons I spent 4 months in rehabilitation. His knee stopped. The room went quiet. Ellen asked, did the injury change the way you process language? When I'm tired or overloaded, indirect phrasing is harder. Multiple instructions are harder. Sometimes I need people to say exactly what they mean. Eric stared at his coffee. I didn't know you were still having that problem, he said. You attended one of my cognitive sessions. I thought it had improved. It has. Then how am I supposed to know when, you ask? His face flushed. Ellen let the silence sit for a moment. When the bedroom decision was made, did you ask Mara? No, he said. Why not? Because my mother needed a room. Was there a reason she could not use the office? She has back issues. Has a medical professional said she cannot climb stairs? I don't know. Has she said she cannot? She says it hurts. Ellen looked at me. And a medical professional has advised you to use the downstairs room. The discharge plan was built around it. I was at work when they assessed the house, Eric said. You were invited by video. I had a client issue. Ellen asked, did you reschedule? No. He looked at her then, irritated. I feel like I'm being made into the villain because I missed an appointment and helped my mother. I'm not assigning roles, she said. I'm trying to understand the sequence. I almost smiled at the word. Eric saw it. See? What? She likes this. Someone else questioning me. I like that the question gets to finish. He sat back. Ellen shifted her pad. Mara, what outcome are you hoping for? My room restored. And for the marriage? The question caught me. I looked at Eric. His tie was slightly crooked. I had straightened that tie hundreds of times in airports, restaurants, our front hallway. My fingers remembered the motion. I want to know whether there's still room for me in it, I said. His expression broke for half a second. There is, he said. Then why does it come after everything else? It doesn't. Your mother's feelings came first. Your decision came first. Your version of my recovery came first. You left. There was nowhere safe to sleep. You could have stayed one night. For what? So we could figure it out together. You had already figured it out alone. He pressed both palms against his eyes. I can't win, he said. I'm not asking you to win. What are you asking? Move your mother upstairs. Ellen asked him. What makes that request feel impossible? He dropped his hands. It would be humiliating, he said. She lost her apartment. She lost my father. She's already terrified of becoming a burden. If I tell her my wife is home and she has to pack up again, she'll hear that she doesn't belong anywhere. My anger didn't disappear, but it lost its clean edges. Eric loved his mother. Beneath the avoidance and the lies of omission, there was a frightened son trying to spare her one more loss. The problem was that he kept using me as padding. What do you think Mara heard when she came home? Ellen asked. He looked at me. That she wasn't expected, he said. What else? His throat moved. That she didn't belong. The answer was quiet enough that I nearly missed it. Ellen glanced at the clock. That sounds important. Eric nodded but looked relieved that time had rescued him. She suggested another session the following week. I agreed. Eric agreed before she finished asking. In the parking lot, he walked beside me to my car. That went better than I thought, he said. I unlocked the door. What did you think would happen? I thought you might leave. I did leave. I mean the session. I put my cane behind the driver's seat. Are you coming home? He asked. What happened with the room? His shoulders fell. Mom's apartment viewing didn't work out. That wasn't my question. Ellen said we need to understand each other. She didn't say I should sleep upstairs. She didn't say Mom should move either. She isn't a referee. Exactly. So why are you treating her questions like a verdict? I leaned against the car. Fatigue had begun to soften the parking lot at the edges. Did you move, Diane? I asked. No. Then I'm going back to the hotel. He looked toward the counselor's office windows. You said you wanted room in the marriage. I do, but you won't even come home. You keep changing the meaning of home. His face tightened. How long are you going to punish me? I opened the car door. I'm paying $79 a night, I said. If this is punishment, you gave it a strange direction. He caught the top of the door before I closed it, then immediately let go. I miss you, he said. I believed him. I miss you too. Then why doesn't that matter? It matters, I said. It just doesn't make the stares disappear. He stood there while I drove away. At the hotel, an email from Crossroads waited in my inbox with the interview link. Below it was a message from Eric. Mom cried after I told her what the counselor said. Before I could answer, another appeared. I hope getting your room back is worth what this is doing to everyone. I put the phone face down. Then I picked it up again and typed, Do you think I didn't cry? I erased that. I tried. The room was already mine. Erase that too. Anything I sent would become another exhibit in the trial of my tone. I took a screenshot, placed the phone in the kitchenette drawer, and shut it between the two forks. Tasha came by Saturday morning carrying bagels and a roll of blue painter's tape. What's that for? I asked. You keep mentioning blue tape. I wanted to participate. You could have brought coffee. I brought emotional supplies. She tore off a strip and put it across the hotel room door at knee height. Trip hazard, I said. See? You're engaged with your environment. I peeled it off. We ate at the little table while she inspected the Crossroads overview, the position-coordinated deliveries among 3 medical supply warehouses, part-time for the first 8 weeks, with the possibility of moving to full-time, hybrid after training. You can do this, she said. I know, good. Saved us 10 minutes. I may not want it. Also allowed. Eric thinks work is too much. Eric currently thinks stairs are a personality test. I gave her a look. Tasha spread cream cheese across a bagel. Did you answer his message? No. Good. You don't know what it said. You have the forehead vein. I slid the phone across the table. She read the exchange once, then placed it down gently. He may not mean it the way it sounds, I said. She stared at me. I'm not defending him. Of course not. You've overused that response. It remains undefeated. My phone buzzed before I could insult her. The message came from Lisa Moreno, who lived 3 houses down from us with her husband, Joel. We had shared driveways during snowstorms, lawn equipment during summer, and enough meals that Lisa knew I hated parsley but would eat it to avoid appearing difficult. Mara, Joel saw your car Tuesday. Are you back? We've been thinking about you. I wrote. Home earlier than expected, staying nearby while we sort out some house things. The dots appeared immediately. I'm sorry, I thought you were still at the VA. Eric said no visitors or calls for a while. I read it twice. When did he say that? A pause. After we invited you both for Easter, he said social things weren't good for your recovery. I hope I didn't overstep by texting. Easter had been 6 weeks earlier. Eric told me Lisa and Joel were visiting her sister that weekend. Tasha watched my face. What? I handed her the phone. She read it and swore softly. It could have been a misunderstanding, I said. Mara? He might have thought I wouldn't want to go. Did he ask? No. Then he did not misunderstand your answer. I replied to Lisa that she hadn't overstepped and that I would call soon. She sent a red heart. I hated how much the small kindness hurt. On Sunday, 2 more memories changed shape. A cookout Eric said had been canceled because of rain. A retirement dinner for his coworker that he said was employees only. Maybe he had lied about those. Maybe he hadn't. Once doubt got into a marriage, it reproduced without supervision. I resisted calling everyone we knew and requesting an audit. That would turn my life into the investigation Eric already accused me of conducting. Instead, I wrote one question in the hotel notepad for counseling. What else did you decide I couldn't handle? Monday morning, I arranged the laptop so the sailboat picture wouldn't appear behind my head. The only alternative was the rehabilitation calendar, and I didn't want to explain my marriage to a logistics company. Simone joined the video call at 10. A man named Warren appeared in a second square, sitting in front of warehouse shelving. They asked about inventory, competing priorities, and the difference between a plan that looked efficient and one that worked. That question relaxed me. A plan that works has room for human delay, I said. Drivers get sick. Loading equipment fails. Someone enters a number wrong. If your system only succeeds when nobody makes a mistake, you don't have a system, you have a wish. Warren smiled. They gave me a scenario involving delayed surgical supplies, 2 available trucks, and 3 hospitals with different inventory levels. I asked for exact distances and current stock rather than rushing into an answer. Halfway through Warren's explanation, his audio broke into metallic fragments. My chest tightened. Before the injury, I would have reconstructed the missing words and kept going. That morning, the harder I tried, the less I understood. Could you repeat the last part? I asked. The audio cut out after the second hospital. He repeated it. No one sighed. No one explained that I had been doing well until then. I worked through the problem, prioritizing the hospital with less than 1 day's supply and arranging a transfer between the other 2. Simone asked what I would do if the transfer failed. Tell people early, I said. Bad news doesn't improve while you hide it. The sentence hung there. Warren nodded. You'd be surprised how many people don't understand that. No, I said. I wouldn't. They invited me to visit the distribution center later in the week. Not an offer, Simone emphasized, just the next conversation. When the call ended, I sat in the quiet room with my hands flat on the table. I had needed repetition once. Once. The satisfaction was clean and private. I didn't call Eric. I didn't need his fear or approval touching it yet. He called me 20 minutes later anyway. Are you free for dinner before counseling? He asked. I have physical therapy. After. I need to rest before the session. He was quiet. You sound good. I am good. Did something happen? I had an interview? For what? The crossroads position. A longer silence. You applied? Yes. When? Wednesday. Why didn't you tell me? We haven't discussed anything except where I'm allowed to sleep. Mara, that isn't fair. There hasn't been room for another topic. He exhaled. This is exactly what I was afraid of. What is? You come home and immediately start pushing. Moving your things, applying for work, setting deadlines. I retrieved wet clothes. You know what I mean. I'm starting to think that phrase means you don't want to hear what you just said. I want you to slow down. I have been slow for a year. You're barely out of residential rehab. I am exactly out of residential rehab. And you're living in a hotel because my room I know. God, Mara, I know about the room. His voice cracked on the last word. We both stopped. I cannot be the only reason you're okay, he said quietly. I never asked you to be. You didn't have to. He ended the call before I could answer. At counseling, he sat on the couch again. This time, I sat beside him, leaving a cushion between us. Ellen noticed that too. Eric told her about the job application before she finished asking how the week had gone. I'm worried she's taking on too much at once, he said. Rehab, work, this fight with my mother. This is not a fight with your mother. She's involved. Because you put her in my room. Ellen raised a hand. Let's slow down. Mara, what does applying for the job mean to you? That I applied for a job? Eric made a frustrated sound. I looked at him. It means I want information. It means I miss being useful in a way that isn't measured by whether I can stand on foam. Does it mean you intend to accept? There's nothing to accept. If there were, I'd consider whether I could do it. With whom? The question was so naked that I softened. With you if we were speaking to each other like partners. He looked down at his hands. Ellen asked, Eric, what are you afraid might happen if Mara returns to work? She'll overdo it. And then she'll crash. She'll lose progress. I'll be the one putting everything back together. I put myself back together, I said. I helped. Yes, you did. You act like I didn't. I act like helping me didn't give you the right to make decisions for me. His mouth tightened. Ellen asked me about the message after our last session. I hadn't planned to mention it, but she must have seen something in my face when Eric said Diane had cried. I took out my phone and read his words aloud. Eric stared at the carpet. Were you angry when you sent that? Ellen asked. Yes. What did you hope Mara would understand? That this affects people besides her. What did you hope she would do? Come home? To the office? He rubbed his palms against his trousers. Yes. Why is her agreement to that arrangement so important? Because it shows we can move forward, or because it shows your original decision was acceptable? I asked. He looked at me. Maybe both. The honesty surprised me again. Ellen leaned forward. What would it mean if you restored the downstairs bedroom now? That I did this wrong? You can repair a decision without becoming a bad person. It's not just that. What else? He looked toward the cinnamon diffuser on the bookshelf. If I put the room back exactly the way it was, he said, then everything goes back to exactly the way it was. I felt the cushion between us. What was it like before I left? I asked. He gave a short laugh. You were there. I want your answer. It was alarms, pills, appointments, you sleeping downstairs and me listening for you to fall, you refusing help, then getting angry when I didn't know you needed it. Every noise in the house becoming a possible emergency. His voice gained speed, and everyone kept telling me how strong you were, how lucky you were, how well you were doing. I felt like a terrible person because sometimes I wanted one day when your recovery wasn't the most important thing in every room. I sat very still. Ellen asked, Is that why you gave the room to your mother? Eric's eyes filled before his face changed. I told myself it was practical, he said. But when Mom moved in, the house felt normal. She cooked. She watched television. She asked about my day, and if I was late, she didn't think I was abandoning her. I never said you were abandoning me. You didn't have to. He covered his mouth with one hand. If there wasn't a room waiting, he said, I didn't have to picture you coming back and everything starting again. The air conditioner clicked off. Nothing moved in the room. I had spent 4 months imagining my return as the finish line. My husband had been using the same 4 months to practice living without me. Ellen did not rush to fill the silence. Neither did I. Eric lowered his hand from his mouth. His eyes were red, but he wasn't crying. He looked almost relieved, as if the ugliest thing in the room had finally introduced itself. You thought I blamed you, I said. Sometimes you did. When? When I missed appointments, when I went back to work full time, when I slept through your alarm. I was angry about those things. I know. That isn't the same as blaming you for the accident. It felt the same. I looked at his hands. His wedding ring had rotated so the smooth underside faced up. I didn't know you were listening for me to fall, I said. You fell twice. Once, twice. The bathroom and beside the bed. I sat down beside the bed. You dropped hard enough to shake the lamp. My memory offered a dark room, the edge of the mattress against my shoulder, Eric running down the stairs in his boxers. I had insisted I was fine because saying it quickly made it feel more likely. I didn't tell you what I needed, I said. You didn't know. That too. Ellen asked, what made it difficult to talk about? Eric and I answered at the same time. She was already dealing with enough, he said. He was already doing enough, I said. We looked at each other. For one aching second, I could see how we had built the trap together, each of us trying to spare the other, each silence hardening into a private story. Mine said Eric was dependable and tired, but still beside me. His said I was fragile, demanding, and incapable of hearing the truth. Then I remembered the contractor bags. Understanding explained the road. It did not make the destination acceptable. You could have told me you were exhausted, I said. I tried. You said you were fine. That meant I was managing. That is exactly what fine meant when I said it. His mouth opened, then closed. Ellen glanced between us. It sounds as though both of you used competence to hide distress. I didn't give his room away, I said. No, she said calmly. You didn't. Eric flinched. I wasn't proud of the satisfaction that gave me. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. I know moving Mom in was wrong. The wording caught my attention. Moving her in or giving her the room. Both. Will you move her upstairs? His shoulders stiffened again. Mara, Ellen said. What would it mean if he did? That he heard me. And if he doesn't? I looked at Eric. That he understands and is choosing not to. He stood suddenly and walked to the window. The blinds were closed. He pushed one slat down and stared at the brick wall of the cutting board store. You're asking me to hurt her to prove I love you, he said. No, I'm asking you to stop hurting me to avoid disappointing her. She has nowhere she feels secure. Neither do I. You have the hotel. He heard himself. His forehead touched the blinds. They clicked softly against the glass. I'm sorry, he said. It was the first clean apology he had given me since I came home. No explanation attached. No request hidden inside it. I wanted to cross the room and put my arms around him. I stayed on the couch. Ellen asked whether we wanted to continue. We had gone 12 minutes past the session. Eric returned to his seat but left the middle cushion empty. It can mean learning how to have the next conversation, she said. It does not require either of you to promise an outcome. He nodded. I nodded too. In the parking lot, Eric stood beside my car while I waited for the dizziness to pass. The session had drained me more than physical therapy. You shouldn't drive, he said. I'm waiting until I can. I can take you. And leave my car? I'll bring Daniel tomorrow. Daniel has a shift. I'll figure something out. The old Eric would already have taken my keys. The new careful version stood with his hands at his sides, visibly forcing himself not to decide for me. I'll wait with you, he said. I didn't tell him not to. We sat on the curb. Cars moved through the strip mall, headlights sliding across the wet pavement. Someone came out of the personalized cutting board store carrying a wooden sign shaped like a pig. Eric watched it pass. Who needs that? He asked. People with pork-based decor. It had a bow, formal pork. He laughed. I laughed too, and then we were both quiet because it felt too good. I didn't want a life without you, he said. I wanted one day that didn't feel like an emergency. You could have had a day, could I? The honest answer took a moment. I don't know, I said. Back then, maybe not. But you still had to tell me. I thought needing a break made me disloyal, so you turned it into something I was doing wrong. He rubbed his palms on his knees. Yeah. The admission was so small and so enormous. I checked my vision. The parking lot lines had stopped bending. Put the room back, I said. His face tightened. My mother is not a piece of furniture. Neither am I. I need time. You keep asking for time while I pay for somewhere to sleep. I'll cover the hotel. This isn't about the bill, I know, but no. Money would let you keep the arrangement and call it support. He looked down. I'm going to start looking for a longer-term place, I said. His head lifted. What does that mean? It means the hotel is temporary. You mean an apartment or a small house? You're leaving me. I have already been gone for 10 days. That was your choice. The words came out automatically. His face changed before mine did. I'm sorry, he said quickly. That was unfair. Yes, I don't want you to rent somewhere. I don't want to need somewhere. We can fix this. You know how. He stood when I did, but he did not touch me. I drove back to the hotel with the windows cracked, letting cold air keep my head clear. The next morning, Crossroads smelled like cardboard, diesel, and industrial coffee. Simone met me at reception in steel-toed boots and a yellow vest. Warren joined us near the loading docks. No one saluted. No one introduced me by rank. The warehouse employees cared whether I wore eye protection and stayed inside the painted walkways. It was wonderful. Warren showed me the dispatch system, then walked me through a delayed shipment they had handled the week before. The original route looked efficient on the screen, but required a driver to cross downtown during a stadium event. "What changed?" he asked. The person who made the route looked at distance instead of time. And I studied the delivery windows. You promised the most flexible customer the earliest delivery. Why does that matter? Because flexibility is inventory. You spend it where it protects the rest of the plan. He smiled but didn't praise me like I had performed a trick. Later, the loading dock alarm sounded. 3 hard electronic bursts. My body reacted before my mind did. Shoulders tight, breath gone. The warehouse narrowed around the noise. I stepped to the side of the walkway and focused on a stack of boxes labeled latex-free exam gloves. Simone said something. I held up one finger. "Give me a second." She waited. I named the boxes, the yellow line, the cold air, the pressure of my boots. The alarm stopped. "I'm okay," I said. "Do you need a quieter area?" she asked. For a few minutes. She led me to a conference room without turning concern into ceremony. Afterward, Warren asked whether that kind of alarm would prevent me from working in the warehouse. "No," I said, "but I'd want to know the alarm schedule, and I'd use hearing protection in designated areas. If it happens unexpectedly, I need a short reset." He wrote that down. I didn't apologize. Before I left, Simone offered me the 20-hour transition schedule, contingent on routine paperwork and a start date we agreed on. I asked for 48 hours to review it. Outside, I sat in my car and let the offer exist without turning it into proof of anything. Then I called Tasha. "I may have a job," I said. She screamed loudly enough that I pulled the phone away. "A transition job," I clarified. She screamed again, slightly quieter. "I haven't accepted." "Do you want me to stop screaming?" "Yes, I can switch to a dignified hum." That evening, she brought her laptop to the hotel and opened rental listings. "This one has a ground floor bedroom," she said. "It also has a mounted fish over the fireplace. The fish may negotiate. This one says accessible and has 3 steps to the front door. Maybe they mean emotionally accessible." We found a small furnished house 15 minutes from Crossroads. 1 bedroom, a walk-in shower, laminate floors, and kitchen cabinets painted a violent shade of yellow. The owner offered month-to-month terms because she planned to renovate in the fall. I toured it the next afternoon. The bedroom window faced west. The bathroom had a solid grab bar. The front threshold was low enough for my bad days. The yellow cabinets were even worse in person. I signed for 1 month. Sitting in the empty bedroom afterward, I called Eric. "I rented a place," I said. He stopped breathing for a beat. "You did what?" "Month to month. Without talking to me?" "I talked to you in a parking lot. I thought you were upset." I was also serious. "So that's it?" "No. It means I have somewhere safe to sleep while we find out what it is. What are you taking?" "My clothes, rehabilitation equipment, personal things. The furniture can stay for now." He was quiet. "I'm scheduling movers," I said. "I don't want anything else damaged in the garage." "When?" "Saturday." "Does Mom know?" "I'm telling my husband." "That isn't what I asked. I'm not asking her permission to remove my belongings." His voice went flat. "You're going to bring strangers into the house and make her watch you move out." I came home and watched her sleep in my bed. Mara, Saturday at 10. I ended the call before my voice could become the only thing he remembered. The moving truck arrived 9 minutes early. I had been sitting at the end of the block for 12. The driver parked behind me and climbed down with a clipboard. Her name was Marisol. The second mover, a tall man named Ben, opened the back and began arranging blankets and straps with the solemn concentration of someone setting a dinner table. "You, Mara?" Marisol asked. "Yes." "House with a blue door?" "Yes." "Anything especially fragile?" "Yes." She waited for details. Most of it is already damaged. Her eyes flicked toward the house, then back to me. "We'll still wrap it." That nearly undid me. I took one slow breath, checked that my cane was secure, and walked up the driveway. Eric opened the front door before I reached it. He wore the gray sweater I gave him for our 9th anniversary. His hair was wet, combed flat on one side and sticking up in the back. "You actually brought a truck. I told you I scheduled movers. I thought you meant a van. Would a van make this less real?" He looked past me at Marisol and Ben. "Can you ask them to wait? They're paid by the hour. I'll pay." "That isn't the point. I need 5 minutes, Mara." I turned and asked Marisol to begin in the garage. She nodded once, no curiosity on her face, and guided Ben around the side of the house. Eric stepped back to let me inside. The wreath was gone from my bedroom door. The kitchen smelled like cinnamon rolls. Diane sat at the table in beige slacks and a green cardigan, both hands wrapped around a mug. There were 3 plates set out. "I made breakfast," she said. I ate. "You knew I was cooking." "No," I told Eric. Eric closed the front door. I forgot to mention it. Diane looked at him sharply, and for one strange second the 3 of us understood the entire marriage through a pan of cinnamon rolls. "I'm not here to make a scene," I said. "Then why is there a truck?" she asked. "To move my things. You could have waited until we worked this out. We have been working it out." "No, you have been issuing deadlines." "Mom," Eric said. "What? Am I supposed to sit silently while strangers carry things through the house? They're not taking anything of yours." It still affects me. Everything affected Diane. That was how she maintained jurisdiction. A knock sounded against the garage door frame. Marisol called. "We have black bags and cardboard boxes. Are all of them going?" I went to the garage. Eric followed. The floor had dried, leaving pale tide marks around the boxes. Someone had moved the potting soil, but my framed commendations were still stacked face down. My original dresser stood behind the lawnmower. Its bottom drawer was missing, and a fresh scrape ran across the top. "Where's the drawer?" I asked. Eric looked around. "It should be there. It isn't." "I'll find it." Marisol held up one contractor bag. "Clothing?" "Yes. Trash bags can tear on the dolly. We'll transfer them into wardrobe boxes." "They're contractor bags," Eric said. I looked at him. His face reddened. I was just explaining. Ben unfolded a cardboard wardrobe box. Marisol asked me to point out what was staying: the tools, mower, freezer, gardening supplies, and Eric's camping gear stayed. My clothing, dresser, service frames, exercise equipment, books, and personal boxes went. There were fewer possessions than I expected. 9 years in the house, and my life occupied one damp section of a 2-car garage. Ben lifted the first bag. Eric caught my arm, not hard, but without asking. "Don't do this." I looked at his hand. He released me. "We can move Mom upstairs," he said. The garage seemed to pause around the words, though the movers kept working. "Did you tell her that?" "We talked last night." That wasn't my question. "No, not exactly." "From the kitchen doorway," Diane said. "Because I said no." Eric turned. "Mom." I did. She likes exact answers. Diane came into the garage, setting each slipper carefully on the concrete. Eric asked whether I would consider using the office for a few nights, she said. "He made it sound as though I'd be back downstairs once you calmed down." "I didn't say that. You said this was temporary." "I meant the whole arrangement. You always mean something else after the sentence causes trouble." That was my line. I had never said it aloud, but it was mine. Eric stared at her. "I'm trying to keep this family together. You are trying to keep everyone from being angry with you," Diane said. Ben glanced at Marisol. She pointed him toward the dresser, giving us the courtesy of pretending not to hear. Diane folded her arms. "I told him he should have called you before moving your things." "You helped choose paint," I said. "Yes." "You hung family photographs." "Yes." "You put my medication under the sink. I put the closed organizer there. It opened after I moved it." "Why didn't you pick up the pills?" "I didn't see them." It was possible. The organizer could have caught on the pipe and opened later. I had no way to know. "I'm not innocent," Diane said. "I thought the room was better for me. I thought you would be gone longer, and I believed Eric when he said the doctors weren't sure you could live at home again." My gaze moved to him. "I did not say doctors," Eric said. You said the program might recommend another placement. It might have. It didn't, I said. You told me about the step-down option. I told you I declined it. Diane looked between us. He didn't tell me that. Mom, stop. Why? You've spent 2 weeks making me the barricade between you. I have defended you. I didn't ask to be defended. I asked for a room, and I gave you one. Yes, she said. Hers. The word dropped into the garage. Eric looked at his mother as though she had betrayed him by identifying the object. Diane's mouth trembled. I knew it was hers. I told myself she wasn't using it. I told myself I'd earned some comfort after taking care of Martin. And when she came home, I expected her to be grateful enough to make do. She looked at me. I was wrong. The apology did not heal anything. It didn't make me like her. It didn't remove the image of her sleeping beneath the pink quilt, but it entered the room without an escape hatch. Thank you, I said. Eric's eyes were bright. Great. Then we can stop this. Mom can move upstairs. I'll put your room back today. Diane gave a small, humorless laugh. What? He demanded. She didn't say she was staying. He turned to me. I stepped around Ben, who had wrapped the dresser in a blue blanket. I rented the house for a month. Cancel it. No. I'll pay whatever fee. No. What more do you want? Mom apologized. I'll restore the room. Isn't that what you've been demanding? It's what I asked for when I came home. It's been 11 days. Long enough for you to tell Daniel I was overwhelmed. Long enough for you to tell me the VA discharged me too early. Long enough for you to make the office more comfortable while refusing to hear why I couldn't use it. Long enough to text that I was hurting everyone by wanting my room back. I was angry. I know. People say things when they're angry, and then other people know they thought them. He stepped closer. Are you ending our marriage over a bedroom? No. His shoulders lowered slightly. I'm moving out because the bedroom showed me what our marriage had become. His relief vanished. That sounds like the same thing dressed up in therapy words. No. If it were only a bedroom, moving Diane upstairs today would fix it. But I came home and discovered you had been telling people what I could handle without asking me. You told your mother I might not be capable of living here. You treated my discharge like an administrative error. I admitted I was wrong. You admitted you were afraid. What else do you want me to do? Live with the fact that an apology does not rewind the thing. He turned toward Marisol and Ben. Can you give us some privacy? Marisol looked at me. Keep going, I said. Eric's face hardened. Of course. What does that mean? You like having witnesses. The garage was suddenly too bright. I set my cane against a box and faced him without it. No, I said. I spent most of my career keeping private pain private because there was always a task that mattered more. I came home from deployments and told everyone I was fine. After the rollover, I apologized every time my body inconvenienced someone. I have protected you from every ugly feeling I could swallow. That isn't fair. I know. It wasn't fair to either of us. He looked away. This truck isn't a performance, I said. These people are working. I am taking my belongings somewhere dry. That is all. Diane leaned against the washer. She had gone pale. I'll move upstairs, she said. Today, you can stay. I looked at her. Eric seized the offer. There, done. No, I said. Diane's chin lifted. You said that was what you wanted. It was. Before I learned, Eric gave you the room, partly because he was afraid I'd come back. Before I learned, he'd been declining invitations for me. Before he made my safe return, something I had to negotiate. So this is punishment, Eric said. It is a consequence. Same thing. No. Punishment is designed to hurt you. A consequence is what I need to do because I know something now that I didn't know before. He stood in the middle of the garage while my belongings passed around him. Ben found the missing dresser drawer beneath a folded tarp. One corner had swollen from water, but it still slid into place. Marisol wrapped each picture frame separately. When she uncovered the photograph from our mailbox celebration, she held it up. This yours? Eric and I were both in it. He stood behind me, his chin on my shoulder, while I held the envelope in the air. "Yes," I said. She wrapped it and placed it in my box. The medication table came out of Diane's closet. My old gray-green curtains were found in the attic, crammed into a plastic tote beneath Christmas decorations. The steel bed rail was not there. Eric searched the garage twice. "I think Mom had me donate it," he said. Diane stared at him. "You said it was broken." "It was loose. It was removable," I said. He pressed both hands to the back of his neck. "I can buy another, I know." By noon, the truck was full. Eric followed me to the driveway. Diane stayed inside. "When are you coming back?" he asked. "For counseling. I mean home." "I don't know." "Are you taking the Crossroads job?" "I haven't decided. Do I get any say in anything now?" The question almost stopped me. "You had all the say," I said. "That's how we got here." I climbed into my car. He stood beside it, arms hanging at his sides. "I do love you," he said. "I know." "Do you love me?" "Yes." It hurt him that the answer came so easily. He had expected love to solve the problem or disappear with it. He had not prepared for the harder possibility that I could love him and still leave. I followed the moving truck down our street. In the mirror, Eric remained in the driveway until the blue door and the house disappeared behind the turn. Tasha was waiting in the rental driveway with the duck umbrella. Though it wasn't raining, Daniel stood beside her holding a roll of shelf liner. She says, "Yellow cabinets need containment. They need an exorcism," Tasha said. The front door opened directly into the living room. Marisol carried in the first box and asked where I wanted it. I almost said, "Wherever." That was what I had said after every military move. Wherever was easiest, wherever left the path clear, wherever created the least trouble for everyone carrying the weight. "Bedroom," I said. "Against the west wall, please." She nodded. The dresser fit beneath the window. Its swollen drawer stuck halfway until Ben adjusted the runners with a screwdriver. My clothes filled less than half the closet. The medication table went beside the bed. We put my balance board near the far wall, with 6 feet of open floor around it. When Marisol carried in my framed commendations, she asked whether I wanted them hung. No. Lean them inside the closet. All of them. For now. The mailbox photograph appeared near the bottom of the last box. I placed it face down in the dresser drawer, then felt guilty and turned it up. Turning it up felt worse. I left it there and closed the drawer. After the movers were paid, Daniel lined the yellow shelves with white paper while Tasha drove to a store for blackout curtains. Neither asked whether I was okay. They argued about whether shelf liner had a correct side. "The grippy side faces down," Daniel said. "The grippy side faces the dishes. Then the paper moves. The dishes move. Not unless the house rolls over." The kitchen went silent. Daniel looked at me. It was an ordinary phrase. A house could roll over in a storm, an earthquake, a children's movie, but the word had entered the room and found the damaged place. I kept smoothing the liner. Tasha said, "If the house rolls over, cabinet organization will not be our primary concern." Daniel nodded. "Fair." The moment passed because they let it. That night, I slept in my own robe beneath unfamiliar sheets. The room was dark enough with towels temporarily pinned over the window. My medication sat where I could reach it. The bathroom was 8 steps away across level flooring. At 2:13, the ice maker dropped a tray. I came awake with my heart slamming and one foot tangled in the blanket. For a few seconds, the walls had no location. I smelled dust, hot rubber, blood. Then my palm found the edge of the medication table. Wood, smooth corner, one chipped place beneath my thumb. Mara Ellison, written underneath. I turned on the low lamp, named the room, and waited. No one ran down the stairs. No one sighed because I had woken them. The relief was real. So was the loneliness. At 7, Eric sent a photograph of the downstairs bedroom. The pink quilt was gone. My gray-green curtains had been rehung, wrinkled from the attic. The medication table was missing because it stood beside me, but the old dresser had been replaced with a folding table. A new steel rail was attached to the bed. "Room is ready," he wrote. Mom moved upstairs. I enlarged the image. The floral border Diane painted remained along the molding. 4 pale rectangles showed where her family photographs had hung. My rehabilitation calendar was still taped to the hotel wall, waiting for me to collect it. Eric had recreated the function of my room after watching its contents leave on a truck. "Thank you for doing that," I wrote. "Are you coming home?" "No." His answer arrived a minute later. "Then why did you make us move her?" I put the phone down. Monday, a contractor named Luis called while I was filling out employment forms for Crossroads. "I have the shower seat from your order," he said. "Do you still want it delivered?" "What shower seat?" "The folding one for the downstairs bathroom. Special order, white finish." I remembered choosing it with the occupational therapist. The brushed steel model looked industrial, so Eric found one that folded nearly flat against the wall. It was supposed to be installed before I left residential treatment. I thought that was canceled months ago. Your husband canceled the install 2 weeks back. We couldn't return the seat. Did he say why? Luis hesitated. "I'm not asking you to get involved," I said. "I'm asking what he told you. He said his mother didn't want permanent medical equipment in the bathroom, said you might not need it." I looked through the rental doorway at the walk-in shower and its solid grab bar. "Can you hold it another week?" "Sure." At counseling, I asked Eric about it. He rubbed the side of his thumb along the seam of the couch cushion. Mom thought it would hurt resale value. We weren't selling. I told her that. Then why cancel it? The installer needed access while she was moving in. She was stressed. So you canceled equipment I needed because installation inconvenienced her. I planned to reschedule. You didn't tell me. I forgot. Ellen asked, "What happens when you hear Mara describe the decision that way?" "I hear her removing all context." "What context changes the result?" I asked. "That I was handling 20 things. That it wasn't malicious. That I didn't wake up planning to erase you. I know you didn't." He looked at me. That seemed to hurt more than if I had accused him of cruelty. "You didn't have to plan it," I said. "You just made the easiest decision each time. Cancel the seat. Move the medication. Put away the calendar. Tell people I couldn't visit. Give her the room." Every decision was small enough to defend. Ellen was quiet. Eric stared at the floor. "What do you want me to say?" "I want you to stop asking for a sentence that makes me come back. I fixed the room after I moved because you said that was what you needed. I needed you to hear me before there was a truck in the driveway. How do I fix timing? You can't." He leaned back and looked at the ceiling. "So I'm just done," he said. "No matter what I do now, I'm the husband who failed the test." "This wasn't a test. It feels like one. That's because you keep grading your actions by whether they produce the answer you want." His eyes closed. Ellen asked me what I wanted next. I had rehearsed the answer at the rental. It still took effort to say, "A separation." Eric opened his eyes. "For how long?" He asked. "I don't know." "Are you filing?" "I'm not making legal decisions today." "Then what does separation mean?" "I live at the rental. We keep coming here if we both want to. We stop pretending I'm one restored bedroom away from returning." He turned his wedding ring around his finger. "And you take the job," he said. "I accepted the transition schedule. When were you going to tell me?" "Today." He laughed softly. "You've made an entire life in 12 days. "No, I found a safe room and 20 hours of work. Sounds like a life. It's a beginning." He looked toward Ellen. "Do you think she's moving too fast? She did not take the bait. I think Mara has named what she wants," she said. "The question is what you want to do with that information. I want her home." I shook my head. "That's an outcome. What do you want to do?" His fingers stopped moving around the ring. "I don't know," he said. It was possibly the truest answer he had ever given me. My first week at Crossroads was only 4-hour shifts, which sounded gentle until I discovered 4 hours of concentration could hurt more than an afternoon of physical therapy. I learned the dispatch software in 40-minute blocks. I wore filtered earplugs near the loading docks. When the warning alarm sounded on Wednesday, I stepped into the marked quiet office, reset, and returned in 6 minutes. No one applauded. Warren asked whether I had updated the delayed orders board. I had. By Friday, I was so tired I put dish soap in the refrigerator and didn't notice until I reached for milk. I stood in the yellow kitchen laughing until the laugh turned into tears. Competence had not returned like a flag being raised. It came back as a series of small decisions. Ask for repetition, check the number twice, sit before pain made sitting mandatory, put the dish soap where it belonged. Eric attended counseling the next week. He looked exhausted. His shirt was wrinkled and there was a faint burn on one cuff. "What happened?" I asked. "Mom cooked oatmeal in the microwave without enough water. That burned your shirt?" I tried to grab the bowl. You know bowls get hot. I was distracted. He smiled a little, then rubbed the burn mark. During the session, he said Diane had moved his desk out of the primary bedroom because the keyboard noise bothered her in the office below. She had also replaced the coffee with a low-acid blend and begun planning dinners around what she called his sensitive stomach. "You hate low-acid coffee," I said. "It tastes like somebody described coffee to warm water." I almost laughed. Ellen asked whether he had told Diane. He looked down. "It's coffee." "It is," I said. He heard the rest. A bedroom was a bedroom. Coffee was coffee. A dinner invitation was only dinner, each surrender small enough to look petty if you objected. "What did you say to her?" I asked. "That I appreciated her looking out for me." "Did you?" "No." "Why say it?" He stared at me across the empty cushion. "Because she'd feel rejected," he said. The room went very still. For once, I didn't have to explain the pattern. He was living inside it. After counseling, he walked me to my car but did not ask me to come home. "I'm sorry about Crossroads," he said. "For what?" "For reacting like you needed permission." I waited. "And for telling people social things weren't good for you when I was the one who didn't want to explain," he added. "Lisa called me." "What did she say?" "That she wished I'd trusted them enough to tell the truth." "Did you?" "No." I got defensive. That sounded like him. The fact that he admitted it also sounded like someone he might become. He put his hands in his coat pockets. "I want to ask you something," he said, "but I'm trying to figure out whether it's really a request or an attempt to control the answer. That could take a while." "Yeah." He gave a tired smile. I opened my car door. "Mara." I looked back. "Was there a point when you stopped planning to come home?" I thought about the rebuilt room, the shower seat waiting in a contractor's warehouse, and the photograph hidden in my dresser. "Yes," I said. His face folded slightly. "When?" "When you finally offered me the room because I was leaving." He nodded once. This time, he didn't argue with the answer. He stopped texting me photographs of the downstairs bedroom after that. He still came to counseling. Some sessions were useful. In others, we spent 40 minutes arguing about whether I didn't want to worry you meant care, fear, or control. Ellen refused to select one answer for us. "It can be all three," she said. "That feels unfair," Eric said. "To whom?" He thought about it. "Everyone." The yellow cabinets in the rental became less violent once Daniel finished lining them. Tasha found dark blue knobs at a salvage shop and replaced the yellow ones without permission. "You altered my home," I said when I walked in. "You are welcome to store my belongings in the garage." She had brought only a screwdriver and a bag of Thai food, so the threat lacked weight. I accepted the Crossroads transition schedule. 20 hours became 24 after the first month, not because I was cured, but because I learned how to build recovery into work instead of treating it as the enemy of work. I took lunch before I was hungry. I scheduled demanding tasks before the warehouse got loud. I told Warren when a migraine was starting instead of trying to outrun it. Once I entered the wrong hospital code into a shipment request and caught it during my second check. I sat staring at the corrected screen, furious that I had made the mistake. Warren passed behind me. "You catch it?" "Yes." Then the process worked. I shouldn't have entered it wrong. Someone always enters something wrong. That's why we check. He walked away before I could turn it into a referendum on my worth. I wrote that sentence on a sticky note and put it beneath my monitor. Eric noticed it during a video counseling session. His face appeared in a square beside mine, the downstairs bedroom visible behind him. Diane had moved back into it. I didn't ask when. He saw me look. Her back got worse in the office, he said. Okay. I told her she needs to find an apartment by October 1st. That's between you and her. She thinks you made me do it. I didn't. I know. The answer was immediate. That was new. Diane called me that night. I assume Eric told you about his ultimatum, she said. He said you're finding an apartment. He gave me a date as if I'm a tenant. You are a tenant. I'm his mother. Those things can overlap. She made a dissatisfied sound. He was never like this before. Before what? Before counseling. Before you started teaching him to call everything a boundary. I did not teach Eric the word boundary. You're encouraging him. No. I told him the arrangement between you is not mine to manage. That is very convenient. It's extremely inconvenient. I spent almost a year managing what everyone else felt about my injury. I'm retired from the position. She was quiet. In the background, a cabinet door shut. He complains about the coffee now, she said. He doesn't like low acid. It's better for him. Does he agree? He drinks too much caffeine. That wasn't my question. You really are exhausting. So I've heard. Another silence. Then she said, I shouldn't have taken the room. No. I apologized. You did. You could acknowledge that it cost me something. I sat at my kitchen table, looking at the blue knobs Tasha had installed. What did it cost you? My dignity. How? I had to admit I'd accepted something that belonged to an injured woman because it was comfortable. There was no graceful response to that. Diane cleared her throat. The apartment I saw today has an elevator. It did not grind. Promising. The kitchen is very small. You only use one burner. I use two. For what? Cooking. What do you cook besides oatmeal? That is none of your business. I smiled despite myself. She moved into the apartment 3 weeks later. Eric helped her. He did not ask me to help, mediate, or congratulate him. At counseling, he said she had cried while packing the ceramic birds. He let her cry. I didn't change the decision, he said. How did that feel? Ellen asked. Awful. And? He rubbed one thumb over his wedding ring. Clean, he said. I understood. By then, the owner of my rental had postponed renovations and offered me 6 more months. I signed without calling it temporary. The dresser drawer still stuck in damp weather. I could have replaced it, but Daniel sanded the swollen corner until it opened with only a slight pull. My clothes smelled like my detergent again. The dry cleaner saved my uniform jacket. A shadow remained on the cuff if the light hit at an angle. The woman with the red glasses pointed it out before I paid. You can try another treatment, she said. Might damage the blue. No, leave it. Good choice. I hung the jacket inside the closet, beside the framed commendations. I still didn't put them on the walls. They belonged to me, whether anyone saw them or not. The cedar box sat on my dresser. One evening, Eric came to the rental for the first time. He stood on the porch holding the rehabilitative shower seat in its unopened box. Luis said, You never picked it up, he said. I forgot. He was going to charge storage. That's fair. I paid it. I looked at the box. I don't need it here. I know. The rental already had a walk-in shower and a fixed grab bar. We both glanced toward the hallway. I thought you could donate it, he said. Or I can. There's an adaptive equipment exchange at the VA. I'll take it. Thank you. He remained on the porch. You want to come in? I asked. He hesitated, which I appreciated. If that's okay. I stepped aside. He looked around the living room without commenting on the smallness, the secondhand couch, or the yellow cabinets visible through the doorway. He noticed the open floor around my balance board. You have more room for exercises here. Yes. Tasha did the knobs? Obviously. They're crooked. Don't tell her. I value my life. I made coffee. Real coffee. Eric took his black because I had thrown out the milk that morning after realizing it was a week past its date. We sat at the kitchen table. "I wanted to apologize without Ellen there," he said. "You've apologized." "Not correctly." I wrapped both hands around my mug. He had written nothing down. I could tell because he kept losing his place and starting sentences over. "I'm sorry I gave your room to Mom," he said. "Not because it made you leave. Because it told you your place could be reassigned when you weren't there to defend it." My throat tightened. "I'm sorry I put your things in the garage. I didn't know what was in the cedar box, but I knew it mattered to you. I treated not knowing as proof it didn't matter." He glanced toward the bedroom where the box was visible on the dresser. "I'm sorry I told Daniel you were overwhelmed instead of telling him what I had done. I'm sorry I told Lisa and Joel not to invite us anywhere. You never asked me to do that. I wanted to avoid explaining, and I used your recovery as the excuse." The refrigerator clicked on. "I'm sorry I missed the home assessment and acted like that meant the assessment didn't count. I'm sorry I canceled the shower seat. I'm sorry I moved your medication. I'm sorry I said the VA discharged you too early." He swallowed. "And I'm sorry that when you came home, I looked scared before I looked happy." That was the one. I looked down at my coffee. He waited. "Thank you," I said. "I'm not asking you to come back." I nodded. "I want to," he added. "I want to ask every day. But I understand that wanting the answer doesn't make the question fair. You can ask." He looked at me. "The answer is no," I said. "But you're allowed to ask once." Pain moved across his face slowly. "Do you want to come home?" he asked. "No." "Do you think you ever will?" "No." He breathed in through his nose and let it out. "All right, I'm sorry. I know, I don't want you to think the marriage meant nothing. I don't. We were good once. We were good many times." That made him smile. Barely. He took off his wedding ring and set it on the table, then looked embarrassed. "I didn't come here planning to do that. You don't have to leave it." It felt dramatic the second it made contact. It was a little dramatic. "Can I put it back on? You can do whatever you want with your own hand." He laughed, and the sound broke in the middle. He put the ring in his coat pocket. We did not discuss lawyers, accounts, or who kept the serving dishes. Those conversations came later and stayed as ordinary as we could make them. We divided things without using objects to finish arguments the objects had not started. Eric kept the house. I took the cast iron skillet because he admitted he had never seasoned it once in 9 years. He asked for the framed mailbox photograph. I gave it to him after making a copy. His copy went on a shelf in the living room. Mine stayed in my dresser for a while longer. At Crossroads, 24 hours became 30. I declined full-time when Simone offered it. 6 months earlier, I would have heard refusal as failure. Now I knew limits were information. 30 hours left room for therapy, rehabilitation, and one afternoon each week when nothing had to be accomplished. The loading dock alarm still startled me. Sometimes I needed 6 minutes, sometimes 2. Once, I made it through without leaving my desk, then discovered my shoulders had climbed nearly to my ears. Warren walked past and said, "You planning to keep those up there?" I lowered them. "Budget cuts," I said. "Can't afford a neck." He nodded as though this was sound operations policy. Daniel and Tasha came to dinner on the first evening I cooked for anyone in the rental. Daniel brought wine. Tasha brought the duck umbrella because clouds existed somewhere over the continental United States. I made chicken, roasted potatoes, and a salad without parsley. Halfway through dinner, the smoke alarm chirped because grease had spilled in the oven. My fork froze. Tasha looked at me but stayed seated. Daniel reached toward the ceiling, then stopped. "Want me to?" I breathed once. "Yes. Please." He removed the battery while I opened the window. No one called the dinner ruined. No one praised me for recovering. We ate slightly smoky chicken and argued about whether Tasha's umbrella was a duck or a deeply confused goose. After they left, I washed the plates and placed them on the lined shelves. The blue knobs were still crooked. The house settled into quiet. I went to my bedroom and closed the door. The blackout curtains turned the window into a dark square. My cedar box rested on the dresser, dry and level. The medication organizer sat beside the bed. My balance board waited in the open space near the wall. I stood on it and turned my head slowly. At 14 seconds, my ankle wobbled. At 19, I nearly stepped off. At 23, I found the center again. When the timer sounded, no one was watching. I stepped down, switched off the lamp, and got into bed. The room did not need to prove what I had survived. It did not ask me to be useful, grateful, normal, or easy. It held only what I had chosen to put there. I closed my eyes and slept.